Hey there, it is Julie B. Deep Dives with Doug Hughes in our Poor Player Book Club series. And sorry, we're a little bit late tonight, some technical difficulties. That's why I'm also not on camera at the moment, but hopefully I can resolve that issue too in a little while. But we didn't want to keep anybody waiting any longer, so we're going to just jump in. And we had a kind of chaotic last live. It was definitely not the way we planned, so apologies for that. I had to do it in the back of a car, and we didn't get to finish all the pages we wanted to go over. So it was the last one was, let me see, it was on pages, it was up to page 151, I believe. It started at page 91. Wait, it was 151 through 221.
221, yeah.
Yeah, yep. And we didn't get to finish the last section, so we're going to start with a sort of brief recap of what went down in that section, just to get through that, because the next section that we're discussing tonight is really meaty. This is like the crux of the action right here. So we have a lot of exciting stuff to get through, and so it will be pages, let's see, 220, it should be 221 through 305, I believe, is where we stopped.
Yeah.
Today. So, that being said, thanks for being here again, Doug. This is always fun. I love your T-Rex background. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I had to download some software, some background software, because Marcy and I are playing around with this stuff for some sizzle reels we want to put together for our plays. So that's why that's there.
It looks like it's about to like bite your head off right there.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. Love it. And yeah, Doc in the chat, I'm sure will appreciate it. Huh, yeah.
Yes, Doc and Amy have both expressed their joy at seeing this.
Yes. Hey there, Michael. Let's say hi to the chat. First, yes, you were first. You win. Nothing in particular, but it's fun anyway. Hey, Shadow Skulk, nice to see you. Hope you're all doing well. Hey, Debbie, nice to see you. Debbie Ebby Bobebby in the chat here. Debbie, she's an early riser and early to bed as a consequence of that. So we don't often get to see her in the chat. But
yeah, unfortunately, I think she's gone. She had to go.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, it's hard to catch Debbie. She's like, I have questions. Oh, well, maybe next time. Maybe next time.
Actually, I answered those for her while we were waiting, so it's all good.
Oh, good. I'm glad. All right. Awesome. Well, she was early there. She was there, yeah, at 8:50 my time. So I'm glad you got a chance to do that. It's always nice to see Debbie. Hey, Amy, nice to see you. Hey, Doc. Hope everyone is doing well on this Wednesday night. And Doc is moving his way through the book. He's on page 233. Nice.
Getting there.
He's getting there. He's almost catching up to us. Almost there. Let's see. Yeah, we are going up to page 306 tonight. So, Doc, I hope you don't mind spoilers if you are going to stick around, because there are some big bombshells happening here.
Yeah, this is where the shit hits the proverbial fan.
Indeed. Yeah. So, let's see. Just scrolling through what you guys have been chatting about. TJ Tells the Truth was here. Nice to see you, TJ. I hope you're doing well. It's so sweet. He said, I love you, Doug. You have been doing an amazing job acting. It's awesome to have you as a real friend to Julie in the community. TJ, you are just a lovely person.
Thanks, TJ.
That was very sweet. And TJ had been asking about From. Just to clarify for anyone who might pop in and is listening, we aren't talking about From at all. So this is strictly about Doug's first novel, The Poor Player. Just FYI, and Doug actually can't talk about From at all. So Mom's the word on that. So yeah, and we don't have any information for you, unfortunately, but hopefully they're plugging along at the filming, and you never know, maybe we'll have it. I'm hoping by February, but enough on that. Let's see. Okay, scrolling through here. Hey, Samuel, nice to see you. And let's see. Oh, you guys were busy in the chat here. Let me see. Oh, there's Trace. Hey, Trace.
Hey, Trace.
Okay, I'm finally caught up. Shadow Skulk said, I'm listening but won't be paying attention to the chat too much tonight. Having a bad pain day, but didn't want to miss it. Love and appreciate you all dearly. Well, I'm so sorry to hear that. I know what that's like, unfortunately. I'm with you. So I hope you feel better. Practice lots of self-care, as always. So, okay. So as always, I'm going to post a link in the chat right now. Let's see, where's the invite link? If anyone wants to call in to the panel with questions or comments for Doug, you may absolutely do so. We strongly encourage you to. And don't be shy. There's nothing to be nervous about. If you choose to do it, you just click the link and I will add you to the panel. You can leave your camera off if you don't want it on, and or turn it on. That's your choice. And yeah, so we would love to hear from you. I know Doug would, if anyone is so inclined.
Totally.
And last time, Amy jumped on the panel, which was awesome. Thank you, Amy, for doing that. I know that was not easy. You know, it's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking for a lot of people, even people who have experience with streaming still get nervous. I still get nervous sometimes. So it's normal, but I appreciate you jumping in and helping when I was having technical difficulties, losing my signal out on the road. Streaming, I wasn't streaming and driving, I was streaming as a passenger, but I lost network. So thank you, Amy, for that, jumping in and helping.
Yeah, Amy became our impromptu co-host.
Yes, she did. And she did a great job. And she's jumped on panels with us before. She's awesome. And I can't tell that you're nervous, Amy. She said, I forget to have, she said, I forget questions to ask and I have PTSD. Well, I am sorry about your PTSD. I understand what that's like too. But you do a great job and you hide your nervousness well, believe it or not. I honestly can't tell. And anyway, so Samuel said, I recently learned that Jurassic Park got it wrong again and scientists think they had lips. Random dino fact. Oh, that's interesting.
Well,
Really?
there's been this controversy going on about T-Rexes, about whether their teeth stayed inside their mouths or not. And apparently they've found some fossils now that have definitively proven that their teeth actually came out over their lips.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, you know, science just continues to progress, and sometimes they get it wrong and learn new things. It's always fascinating when that happens.
Hmm.
So last week when we were diving into kind of the lead up to the climax of the novel, the setup, really, the setup section, where did we leave off? About where did we? I'm trying to remember.
I think we got as far as Harry going down to Julian's place with the chains and the locks. I think we were just about to have that scene between Julian and Harry when he got there, if memory serves. Somewhere
Right,
close to that, anyway.
right. And that scene is, you know, it turns out to be pertinent to the section that we're going to discuss tonight too, because
Indeed, yeah.
yeah, he spots some things when Harry is snooping around the farm, Julian's farm. He, he's kind of looking for clues because he doesn't trust Julian. Julian seems to be a snake oil salesman, cult leader kind of guy, and so he spots some stuff on the farm that makes him wonder, this guy doesn't seem to be what he appears. And what is the chemical that he saw? I forget the chemical.
Ammonium nitrate.
Yes, ammonium nitrate. And he was wondering, like, what exactly is that doing here? That becomes significant in the main section we're going to discuss tonight. At the time, Julian has an answer for him. Julian comes up with an excuse for having it. That I think, even though he's an environmentalist and he shouldn't have these kinds of chemicals around, he claims that someone is just renting some farmland, I think he said, nearby.
Yeah, the wheat fields around his place he's rented out, and so it's a very plausible explanation for why the ammonium nitrate should be there, because it's a fertilizer, you know.
Right. So yeah, he's quick with an answer for that. He's a slick guy,
Yeah.
but yeah, Harry isn't going to be fooled that easily. He still doesn't trust the guy at all, even though Julian has answers to everything. And something just seems off about the farm in general to Harry. And yeah. So let me see. I'm trying to find a page here. Let me see for that. Oh, hey there, Vibrant Numerals. Nice to see you. I'm behind on my reading, but didn't want to miss another live. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Doc, if you have a moment, if could you locate Vibrant Numerals channel and throw the link in the chat for me when you get a chance? It would be much appreciated. Vibrant Numerals has a channel on numerology, so if you're interested in that, make sure you check that out. It's an awesome channel. So, oh, and Noah is here. Noah says, "Hey, Doug.
Hey, Noah.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well." All right, let's see. I prepared so much for the main section tonight, but now I lost my place in the previous section here. Let's see.
It's around mid 180s.
Oh, okay, I'm too far behind. All right, let me see. Mid 180s.
Oh no, sorry, I'm wrong. It's past that.
Oh, it's past that. Oh, okay.
Oh no, wait. Did we do that bit? I've lost track now of where it was exactly that we got to. We haven't had no, we have had the meeting at Julian's place, right? That's all happened.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
we discussed that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm right. It was when he comes back with the chains. That's about where we were. So it's a little further along here, I think. We're not far
Okay.
from okay.
Let's see. Oh, okay. I see the chains. He's picked up the chains. And oh, okay. I think I found it. Yeah. Yep, the ammonium nitrate. Okay, I found it. It's in
Okay.
the 190s.
Yeah, I'm a little behind you, but I'm almost there. So yeah.
Okay, here we go. All right. Yeah, so he asks what's with all the fertilizer, and because he thought this was a strictly organic operation. And he again, Julian has an answer for that too. Oh, it's just for the guy renting the wheat field over there. So he has you know an alibi, as it were, for that. And they have an exchange where where Julian is kind of interrogating him on Harry, on like how did he come to join the AEA exactly? Did you do it just because your girlfriend did and you're not even a real environmentalist? He definitely doesn't trust Harry. It's clear. Neither of them trust each other, and they're just kind of sizing each other up in this scene. It's tense, and and Julian is is extremely condescending, where he's, you know, he's putting down Harry basically. You know, like, you're not really serious about this. You haven't read, like, he's questioning him on, you know, have you read Osborne's Our Plundered Planet? Have you read Marsh's Man in Nature? Have you read Malthus's essay on the principle of population? So he's quizzing him on what environmentalist texts he's read, and Harry hasn't read any of them. So, he's but Harry, I like how Harry puts Julian in his place. I liked what he said. He said, I may not have read Osborne or Marsh or whoever, but I have read Woody Allen. And you know what he said? 80% of life is showing up. Well, I showed up, Julian, and I'm still here, unlike a lot of your little groups. So why don't you get off my back? Which is great. Um, summed it up really well. So he's not as well read as some of the others in this group. He's one of the few and brave who actually continue to show up to meetings, and is willing to get himself arrested if necessary, or at least, you know, at least he's playing along as part of his infiltration of this group. But he and the others are willing to get themselves arrested to do this. So, the fact that this guy is interrogating him on this and undermining his commitment to the cause is ridiculous. Most of the people bailed when it came down to chaining themselves up, in an act of civil disobedience and getting themselves arrested.
Yeah.
So,
But with both of them here, there are things going on a variety of levels.
mhm.
And that's why, for me, I find this scene really interesting because, the first question is, why is Julian being such a dick? Because everything that you just said about Harry's participation is already obvious to him. He knows that Harry's still there. He knows that Harry is, you know, as he says himself when he apologizes, literally gone the extra mile, going to fetch the chains and scoping out Bow Island when he was there on tour and doing all this stuff for the group. So it's like, why is he doing this? Is he just doing this for the stated reason that he doesn't trust Harry's motives, or is there something else going on? And of
Right,
course, it's not until much later in the book where that becomes clearer.
right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, because at the time it's unclear. Is he just being condescending, or is there something more going on? And I got the strong sense that it's not just a matter of being arrogant and condescending, that Julian doesn't trust Harry at all, and you know he smells a rat there. And he's right to, because Harry is, he's there under false pretenses.
And
So
Harry himself concludes that his anger is actually the appropriate response if this guy doesn't trust him. Because if he
right.
doesn't get angry, then Julian's really going to smell a rat.
Right. And so, yeah, so he gives him that response, and he shows his righteous indignation, like, get off my back. I'm still here. And he does a good job selling it. Oops, highlighting stuff randomly here. So yeah, he does a great job covering, I think. And yeah. But there's something, yeah, the diesel fuel is kind of nagging at him. He's so clever, and he's not going to be fooled that easily by that easy explanation that this guy gave him. There's something else going on, and he winds up being right. Uh, as we'll find out later in the main section we're going to discuss tonight. But from there, let's see, wrapping up this section. So let's see. The next section, we jump back to um, the present. We jump back to the present time, and it's a surprise. You had said that some characters that we really enjoyed will be making surprise appearances later in the book, and here's one right here, a personal favorite of mine. I really enjoyed the character of Olivia, so I was pleased to see her pop up again in this section. And there she is, because in order to publish this book, Harry has to get you know, he has to get everyone involved to sign a release. legal paperwork. So he's meeting up with Olivia first, and so they have a nice little reunion, and they finally get to unpack what happened between them. So it's a nice, satisfying resolution, to what was entirely unresolved. Both his relationships with both Olivia and Chantal, his two instructors who he had the romantic dalliances with, they were just left hanging. And that's something that kind of bugged me as a reader. So I was really glad to see that this came to a resolution and we got an explanation for why Olivia just disappeared.
Right.
And they had their romantic evening together, and then Olivia was gone the next day, and so was Chantal, under the same circumstances. He never got to say goodbye at the end of his spy training to either of them, and now
Right.
he finally gets um, to talk to her at more length, and understand exactly what happened, and learn a little bit more about her life. And so you get this sense of closure, this closure about their first, regarding their first chapter in their relationship together, and the romantic attraction they had, which is now in the past, and they're just moving forward as friends. Um, so yeah, so basically, yeah, he's not only asking her to sign paperwork, but he wants Olivia to be his publicist as well. So that was a cool twist to bring her in, make her a little more involved. I liked that a lot. Um, and her explanation for leaving, she basically explains that she had a trip that was previously planned, and she she felt like, she basically took the coward's way out, and she didn't want to tell him about it, and sound like she was just running away and making up an excuse, because it would look that way. But
Yeah.
the trip had been planned already, and she just took the coward's way out and left, and she apologizes to him. So he finally gets closure and gets an explanation for it, and realizes that he didn't do anything wrong. She wasn't angry at him, and it was just a misunderstanding. So I liked that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. As you say, it's a nice sense of closure, that finally gets dealt with. And then he goes to Montreal to see Chantal.
Yeah, I loved that. So we got that right after the back-to-back scenes with his back-to-back lovers, as it were. So it's fitting that we had them reappear back-to-back again. And because, yeah, he didn't waste any time in between those two affairs. Um, and it's a little bit awkward too. It's kind of funny to imagine the situation and the awkwardness they're feeling, because at this point Olivia and Chantal have both read the manuscript, and this is the first time they've learned about Harry's relationships with the other woman. So Olivia finds out Harry also slept with Chantal around the same time, and Chantal finds out Harry also slept with Olivia. Um, so there's that little bit of awkwardness when both of them kind of address it, um, but Olivia, just makes a little joke about it, and they, Chantal seems a little more hurt by it, but she's not upset. She seems a little more hurt, because she admits, surprisingly, I didn't expect this. She confesses that she had fallen in love with Harry as
Exactly,
his
which is
teacher.
precisely why she's more hurt about this than Olivia. Olivia's, a lot more sanguine about it because there wasn't the same kind of emotional investment for her.
Mm, right. Yeah. So I wasn't expecting that confession. That took me by surprise. She admits that she loved him from the first time they had class together, basically love at first sight, um, and then she ran off in her case without saying goodbye, because she felt terrible about sleeping with him, that she had violated a moral code in doing so as his teacher, and she was so ashamed that she just left and resigned her position, and that was that. So that explains that, and and she also apologizes. So again, we get closure for that. And and Harry says that he was also smitten with her, and if only he had known, then who knows what their lives might have been completely different. So
Yeah.
it's like the road not traveled.
And I did this with both of these women for a very specific reason. It's one of the places in the book where I was trying to have fun with the sort of James Bond tropes, because one of the biggest tropes in a James Bond book is all the women he gets involved with are completely disposable. So I thought, I'm going to do the opposite in this. I'm going to make it look like that's what's happening at the outset, have them both conveniently disappear after they've spent their brief dalliance with him, and have it look like a page out of a James Bond book, but then have both of them come back into his life and play very significant parts there. So that's what that was all about.
Oh, see, that makes total sense. The inspiration from James Bond. Yeah, James Bond was quite a ladies' man, so it's fitting.
And,
And
and
yeah,
those aren't the only tropes. There are other ones too, but when they do come up, I always try to twist them in some way so it's not quite what you're expecting in an Ian Fleming book.
right, absolutely. So yeah, I love it. I love how you play with those tropes. And Harry, he's an unlikely James Bond because he's not a ladies' man at all. Really, this is just an unusual situation he lucked into with these two women. And
And he doesn't have any of James Bond's self-assurance either. As you've said yourself, he's always the underdog and sees himself that way.
yes, exactly. So yeah, I like how you kind of turn that trope upside down, and yet he still manages to get some beautiful women, regardless. Um, and yeah, so he gets his closure with Chantal. She signs the release, and he finds out what became of her, and that she had an ill-fated marriage, but two children came out of it. So at the end of the day, even though they may have had a completely different life, both of them, if they had known about their feelings for each other, then they wouldn't be where they are now. So they can't really regret it. She has her two children, and he has his life now. And he probably is content with it, for what it is as well, I'm sure. So it's just, yeah, the road not taken. They both have to kind of ponder for a moment, and then they just move on.
Yeah.
And then let's see. So and then in the next section we jump back to 1991, where it's another meeting with Pete, and Harry gets the update from Pete that he's looked into Julian, and he's convinced that the name Julian Novak is just an alias, that he doesn't even exist, but it's an identification that he must have established a long time ago, or an identity rather. That he's managed to get himself a birth certificate, a social insurance number, a health card, driver's license, for years, and he can't prove it yet, but he just knows that they're bogus.
Right.
So that's a big red flag to worry about going into this big protest that Harry's about to embark on. It's dangerous, heading out onto this island to chain himself with all of these women to the oil pump. Um, and Pete acknowledges too that he doesn't want him going into danger without knowing for sure what's going on with Julian. But for now, he's got to do more digging, and in the meantime, just continue going forward with the plans.
And that's one of the drawbacks to this job, is that you often have to operate on incomplete information, and just make the best judgment calls you can. And this is an issue that comes up a lot for Harry as the book progresses.
Right. Yeah. So and there's a brief little aside that I'm guessing may have come from an experience you actually had where Harry acts in a play, another one of these morality plays for the kids, and at one point there's so one of his fellow actors has an imaginary conversation where he's supposed to be just in her mirror, and they're talking to each other through the frame, and it was so real to one of the kids that he completely bought into it. He was like, well, let's see, he was patting his leg like to see if he was really there and not just an apparition in the mirror, and then Harry says, uh he was wondering if there had ever been a time in my life when my suspension of disbelief had been so complete or had come so easily as that little kid's. Did that actually happen? I was just curious.
Absolutely, true story.
I
It
figured.
it did not happen on the tour that I did in Alberta. It happened the year before in Saskatchewan, and we were in a town, somewhere up in northern Saskatchewan, some reserve somewhere. It was a little First Nations kid, and the play, it was a different thing. It was this play called The Mirror Man. It was a play specifically for little kids, K-3 kids, and I played the Mirror Man, and it's this guy. He owns a toy shop, and I'm his mirror image. And so there's this whole scene where this guy discovers that the guy on the other side of the mirror is actually a guy. It's not just his reflection. So we did a lot of that sort of mime mirror acting stuff, and then I come through the mirror and help him save the day, kind of thing. And yeah, we'd been doing this play for months, and here we are doing this scene one day, and all of a sudden I feel this little tug on my pants, and I look down out of the corner of my eye, and here's this little guy looking up at me with this rapt expression on his face as he's patting my leg, and I thought, that is just the coolest thing I've ever seen an audience member do in my life. So I
That's
had to put that in
awesome.
the book.
That's awesome. I love how you insert these little autobiographical events into the book here and there, and you try to pick out which ones they are. And that's just the magic of childhood. As an actor playing to children, that's a totally different kind of audience. They can suspend their disbelief in ways adults just are not capable of doing.
Absolutely.
That's so cool. Okay, just to wrap up the last segment of this section. So we have the final big setup and ending with a big bombshell. The big setup for the climax of the novel. And it's a soiree that the oil company, what is it? Al Petrico? How do you say it?
Al Petrico. Yeah, that's it.
Al Petrico. They're throwing a soiree. Harry and Marla attend it together. So, yeah. So it's Marla's parents are going to be there, and her dad works for Al Petrico. So yeah, they're going to make an appearance there, um, and basically, in a nutshell, the big shocker is when they see none other than Julian there and Eric Tompkins, a guy I was not expecting to pop up again at all. Another surprise appearance from a previous character. He taught strategic Canadian politics at the CSIS Academy.
That's right.
Um, so he should not be there at this oil company gala, and neither should Julian. And what follows is an awkward situation because Harry can't let Tompkins see him and possibly recognize him, and he can't risk exposing or blowing his cover as a CSIS agent. Marla doesn't know anything about this at this point, that he's a member of CSIS, and but Marla doesn't want to leave. She's saying, well, they it's just as suspicious and strange that Julian is here, so we should go talk to him. We should go ask him what he's doing here. And Harry is saying, no, we should leave before Julian sees us and asks us questions. So they have that back and forth, which gets really tense, but ultimately Harry convinces her to leave. And they're trying to figure out, like, what could Julian be doing there? And ultimately the big bombshell is the big reveal, which I did not see this coming at all.
Good.
Marla, like you surprised me with this. Marla, who seemed completely oblivious to everything that Harry has been doing this whole time. He feels like he's been just pulling the wool over her eyes. Well, come to find out, she's been doing the exact same to him. She's also a CSIS agent. Dun dun dun. Like, I was not expecting that. That
And
was
end scene.
what a great place to end the section too. Right when things are getting really juicy, you cut it right there. That's great, because it leaves you wanting more. And of course you don't pick up right there immediately. You keep the suspense going by jumping back into the present day in the next section. So I like how you did that. I like how you chose to leave us hanging for a while instead of resolving, this, like, giving us more answers as to, what does this mean? She's a CSIS agent too? Like, it brings up so many questions, but yeah, you're not going to just give us immediate resolution to that. So I liked that, how you built suspense.
Well, you asked in an earlier live stream about the process of choosing where to make the breaks between the two time periods, and that was one of the easiest ones of the book. That was a clear exit sign when we got to the end of that scene. I thought, oh yeah, that's the perfect place to go back to the present day, have a little breather, get a little more information, and then go back into the fray again. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's yeah, things are getting very tense, and the suspense is ramping up. So yeah, it is a good place to swing back into the present. Samuel here said, I thought she was suspicious. I thought she was spying on the protagonist though. Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't pick that up at all, honestly. I just thought she was oblivious to the whole thing. I mean, she's a smart person, but I didn't think that she was at all involved in spy work. So, yeah, nice twist. Amy said, I love this book. Well, I'm glad you're
Thanks,
enjoying
Amy.
it. And just to go up a little bit here, Doc had said, Doug, you ever hear about in Britain over a decade ago, a man who was a Fed married the activist he was spying on?
No, I've never heard that story, but that's really interesting. That'd make a great book right there.
Yeah, that is. Wow. Love it. Um, yeah. Paul Miss Shelby popped in, my buddy who made my Discord server. So, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. And just yeah, he couldn't resist here. What did you do to Ethan's dad? Yeah, it wasn't Doug. It was just someone who looks suspiciously like Doug. Anyway, but we're on the subject of Doug's book. By the way, BK. It's BK is his other screen name. The one that he's most commonly known by. BK. Doug wrote an awesome novel, actually two novels, where he kind of weaves his own personal experiences into a fictionalized account of his life as a young actor traveling Canada doing theater for school shows. And then the twist is, though, that in the book he's actually a spy for the Canadian government, and it's really a great page turner. It's a fun read, and Doug was kind enough to provide copies of it to anyone who would like one for free. And by the way, anyone who would like a copy can still get one. You can email me at JulieBDeepDives@gmail.com if you'd like to read it, and I will email you the PDF. So anyway, so then we come to the most exciting portion of the book, the most action packed and an exciting, eventful portion of the book thus far. And boy, it was a page turner. Doug, you told me, like, yeah, this is a good chunk of the book that we're covering, and it's sizable compared to some of the other sections, but it's such a page turner. There's so much going on in it that you definitely want to keep going. So you picked a perfect cutoff point, I think. Just get us to the resolution of the climax before we end this section. So
Yeah, and it's interesting because in both time periods, the present day and the past, the action is sort of ramping up simultaneously in both at the same time. You know, you've got both stories. The stakes start to increase, and the very first evidence of that we get at the beginning of this section is back in the present day, where Harry gets to meet for the first time with his hopefully with his new publisher, you know?
right. So yeah, there's a lot of bouncing back and forth between past and present in this section again. Even though there's a lot of action going on, again, you kind of leave the reader wanting more, and kind of on the edge of our seats during some exciting moments. But I like how you did that. Just kind of take the foot off the gas for a little bit by coming back to the present, and you did that a number of times. So, let me see. Oh, sorry, I just lost my place. Let me go back up here. Okay.
This is the section that starts on 221 and it goes to 234, the little bit in the present day, the scene where he meets his publisher.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Oh, here it is. All right. So yeah, so it jumps into the present day, where yeah, they're meeting the publisher for this book, and it seems like it's going a little bit too easily. This guy is effusive in his praise about the book, how wonderful it is, and he's sure that it's going to be a big success, and he's going to publish it and all of that, but there's just something off too. He's all nervous and antsy. He keeps eyeing Pete with some anxiety and seemingly afraid of this guy, and then so of course Pete is leaning on this guy, digging up dirt about him so that he'll publish the book or at least do what he can to get the book published.
Yeah, this came from very early on, actually, when I started putting the story together. Because having never been published myself, I didn't really have a lot of personal experience with what that process is like. But I have a good friend who's been published a number of times. Ironically, she many years ago was the stage manager of the very first school tour I did, the one in Saskatchewan, and she became a writer, and she's had a number of books published. And so I called her up and I said, "Can you tell me a bit about this process?" And I explained Harry's situation. He was this unknown writer, and this was his first book, and I needed to get it published, but I needed to know how that process worked. And everything she told me about it was this guy's book would basically just never get published, under those circumstances. So that's when I
Yeah.
decided, okay, the only way this is going to work then is he's got to get some help. And of course, working for CSIS, you have a ready assistant in Pete. So that's where all of that stuff came from. It was a way of making Harry's book getting published more plausible than I think it would have been otherwise.
Right. Yeah. And I think that makes total sense, because being part of CSIS, he would have the ability to get dirt on anyone he wants. So it really is the only plausible way that I could see someone publishing Harry's novel this easily, because we all know, and from your own personal experience, how difficult it is for a first time novelist to try to get published. That's why, unfortunately, this awesome novel is not published. So yeah, it's a really difficult uphill battle, and it never happens that easily. So I love how
No,
you came up with a plausible way.
and despite Harry's inexperience with the process, he's smart enough to be able to put that together for himself. There's no way
Yeah,
a newbie like me would get his book published like that. It just doesn't happen that way, like he's figured that much out for himself. So, and also this guy, I mean, for a guy like Harry who has such great spidey sense about people, I mean, this guy's setting it off with everything he says and does. There's something really off about him, and so he knows something else is going on here.
Right, absolutely. Harry doesn't miss a thing. So, yeah, it's obvious that okay, this is happening way too easily. There's something off about this guy, this publisher. And yeah, so yeah, Pete confirms that, he's been leaning on this guy. He's got I think it's, let's see, what is it? Gambling?
Yes,
Uh
gambling debts. Yeah.
Yes, gambling debts. And yeah, he could go to prison and lose his job if this gets out. So yeah, he just makes him an offer like, yeah, if you'll get this thing published, we'll cover your debts and enroll you in Gamblers Anonymous, and maybe you can keep your job and stay out of jail. So I mean, that's kind of an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that. And there's, yeah, there's something interesting I've noticed in this book. Like there's constantly, and and Harry points that out in this section, there are always train accidents in the news. Train accidents all over the place. And I can't help but wonder, is this going to come into play at some point later in the book? A train accident or something related to that in the plot.
And I have to tell you, that drove my first editor crazy. Every time, like she wrote handwritten notes in the manuscript, which I really appreciated. I thought that was just such a great way of doing it, because it's right there on the page, right? It's like put it right there when you have the thought, right? And then it's really fresh. And
Mhm.
so reading her notes when she gave the manuscript back to me was a very entertaining experience. And every time this train wreck thing came up, she kept putting in, what the fuck is this all about? And it's like, oh, good. He's curious. That's a good thing. So
Yes.
yeah, of course, it will eventually pay off, but we won't get there for a while yet.
Okay. Yeah, it really feels to me like kind of like a Chekhov's gun that's going to go off at some point.
Yeah,
That's my impression of it.
yeah.
Um, Always something in the background. There has to be a reason why you're pointing out, or Harry keeps noticing train accidents on the news, and Pete tells him, as for the train derailments, there's nothing unusual about this many accidents. It's just coincidence that so many of them have happened in such a short time. And he goes on about it, and Harry says this didn't sound at all like the Pete I knew. For him, taking the cynical view was a full-time job. Why was he being so blasé about this? So I wrote some notes. I wrote a note in the margin myself. Setup? Is this a setup for something later? So we'll see. I write notes too. I I always write notes while I'm reading.
And I'm sure my first editor had the same thoughts as you. I think her issue was just like she was getting really impatient with how long it was taking for this to finally bear fruit. But just trust me that it does. So,
Not the case for me. For me, it's just curiosity. Like,
Hmm.
So I made a note. But anyway, moving on. So this guy Tony, the publisher, he runs into problems because he's not the final boss when it comes to publishing this book. He can't get his boss to agree to it. She doesn't have she doesn't think it has enough commercial potential. It's too big of an investment, and in publishing a book, and she just doesn't think it's going to pay off. So what happens? Well, Pete has to lean on her too, and he's he's certainly good at it. So he's able to dig up dirt on her as well. In her case, it's drug addiction, um, a crack addiction to be specific, and something you'd never expect from the appearance of this woman who you say looks like Maggie Thatcher a little bit. That's not exactly the image of a crackhead that you would think of, but yeah. But blackmail certainly works well, because yeah, all it takes is Pete working his magic with the blackmail again, and she reluctantly, under duress, agrees to publish the book. So, yeah, that, that gets resolved pretty easily. And let's see. Oh,
We
hey,
go
hey,
back to
Dieter.
Harry with his pants around his ankles.
Yes. Hi, Dieter. Nice to see you.
Hey, Dieter, long time no see.
Yeah. Hope you're doing well. Samuel said, I figured Pete would do something like that. Yes, it does seem like his style. He plays hardball. He really does. He gets the job done, whatever it takes. So, let's see. Let's see. I think that's pretty much everything important there. Oh yeah. And just to close out that section, Pete, make sure to tell Harry, you've got to get the rest of the signatures. There are 2 more apparently that he needs to get for release forms, legal liability or legal release forms from people involved in the book. He says these 2 are deal breakers. These are really important ones. No signatures, no book. So he's got to get out there and do that. And he doesn't say who they are at the time.
Exactly.
So we're left to wonder, like,
Mhm.
who are these 2 deal breakers? Um, Teeter said, doing better and better. Thank you. Well, I'm so glad to hear that, and you're welcome. And I hope you keep doing better. All right. So moving on. So now we're back to, yes, Harry with his pants around his ankles. It was a great place to leave off, and we pick back up in 1991, where he gets answers as to how Marla came to be involved with CSIS. And she explains that, last year, not long after Julian joined the AEA, everything was going fine until one day at one of our meetings, one of the groupies shows up with a friend. And so she was this, call it, she calls her a diesel dyke, if you'll pardon the expression. And um she seemed like a rat. She seemed like she was there to infiltrate the group sent by the Mounties. And then they kicked her out. They thought that was the end of it. And then Pete showed up at her door. He knew all about this woman, and said yes, it basically, they were right about that. He calls the Mounties a bunch of morons and says he wants to recruit her. um, and and uh, and it's to spy on the Western Separatist Party. So he's worried about that. We already know about that. Their ties with the oil and gas industry, and he figured, their group could gather intelligence on what they and the industry were up to, and they'd be perfectly positioned to do that. So it's it's all of the key people in the group, the people who are still involved in doing the protest. They're the core members, and all of them are with CSIS as well as Marla, but not Julian. Uh, Pete doesn't trust Julian. He expressed that to Marla as well. He's not in on it. Um, and Marla's just been keeping this from Harry the whole time. And the interesting thing is that Pete told Marla about Harry being a CSIS agent, but he didn't tell Harry about Marla. He kept Harry in the dark, which is a recurring theme between the 2 of them,
Mhm.
keeping Harry on a need to know basis and restricting his information, which is like a maddening thing for him. And that's something that I didn't quite understand. Like, you explain it, but why exactly? Why did Pete feel the need to keep Harry in the dark about this? I
Well,
like.
because as he says, if Harry was aware that the rest of the group were all CSIS members as well, Julian's radar is good enough that he would have picked up on the fact that uh, he would have smelled a rat himself. The fact that Harry was there because he was checking out Marla and her friends, uh, kind of like it deflects that the attention isn't on Julian that way, you know. It's like he presents himself as Marla's, well, I mean, she presents him basically as her boyfriend kind of thing. And that kind of cover story isn't going to work with a guy like Julian if Harry knows that, oh yeah, this is my girlfriend, the CSIS agent, you know?
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Um,
And of
that
course, as it turns out, it all ends up being academic anyway, down the road.
right. Right. But yeah, at the time, yeah, that does make sense. And you know, here the irony is that Harry had been feeling so guilty about keeping this mission secret from Marla and spying on her and her friends, and as it turns out, he was more in the dark than her.
Yeah.
She and Pete were keeping this from him, and so it's and he even for a moment questions her feelings for him. uh like was this part of the assignment too? Did Pete want her to seduce him? And he brings up this suspicion, and Marla's actually hurt by it, and says to the contrary. Actually, Pete wasn't happy that they got involved romantically, that this was not part of the plan, and it was entirely genuine on her part from the outset. and
Right.
and that's what I immediately believed. That I didn't have any suspicion to the contrary, because the way that you wrote their relationship, the way that you portrayed them as a couple, it just came across as so genuine. Yes, she was keeping this major mission that she was on from a secret from Harry, but their relationship itself was entirely genuine on its face. I don't think for a moment that any of that was um you know like somehow an act or something that she was assigned to do, and then maybe she developed feelings for him later. No, I believed that this was a real connection from the outset. So
And I
uh,
think that's one of the reasons why Harry comes to that conclusion. Once she explains that, he buys it immediately because that's been his gut feeling all along as well. How could that all have been faked? That would just not be possible.
no, she'd have to be the greatest actress on earth. It
Yeah.
was everything about their exchanges, their conversations, it's all just it's just such a natural chemistry that they have, and they've always had. It's as if they've always known each other. As comfortable as they've been together from the first encounter and their first meal, their first breakfast together. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, but and he honestly he can't be that angry because he was lying to her too.
Exactly. He's equally guilty. So, who's doing the same thing to her?
So they move on from that refreshingly quickly, which is good. Oh, hey, Bill Chill. Nice to see you. Um, I don't know if you're caught up, Bill, but we're covering up to page 305 tonight in The Poor Player. So if you have any questions, if anyone has any questions or comments, of course, as always, you can put them in the chat. You can also, I'll put the link in the chat again. If anyone wants to call into the panel, which we strongly encourage, you can do so at any time. You can just jump right in. So, okay. Did I lose my place again? Oh, nope. Okay. So yeah, at this point we just kind of dive into the action portion of the story, and they have to decide. Harry and Marla have to decide what to do next. And Harry thinks he's got to go to Julian's farm now that he knows Julian is at the Alpetrico Gala. He's tied up over there, so this is a perfect opportunity to go to Julian's farm and fish around for clues. So that's what he goes off to do. He takes the theater company van Beulah down to the farm, and Marla goes off to join the ladies that night, because she can't just abandon them. She feels she needs to be with them, because of the danger that they could be going into. They don't know what exactly could be happening, but they know they don't trust Julian.
And Harry, of course, who doesn't want her to go at first, once he realizes she's working for CSIS, the penny drops that, well, she's got to go whether he likes it or not. So, that's just the way it is.
Exactly. So that's a game changer. Now that he knows she's in on everything and she's aware of what's going on, she knows what she's doing, and she's a smart woman. So just he has to just accept it, and they both go off on their personal dangerous missions. So now we have Harry going back to the farm, and this is where he finally discovers what's really going on with Julian. And so he gets down there, and he notices some things that are off right away, like he goes into the barn, goes down onto the lower level, which he didn't get to investigate before, and finds a gas guzzling car, which does not at all fit with Julian's whole character, where he's supposed to be this devoted cyclist who never uses cars because of the detriment to the environment. And here he's got a gas guzzling car and a space where another car clearly was parked, which he probably took to the party that night. So he's got at least 2 vehicles, probably 3 actually. And so that's just the beginning, of course, though. Harry digs deeper, and he finds an office loaded with expensive computer software, a fax machine. And then there's no need for him to have all that stuff. And Harry dives into it, and he finds a bunch of evidence to reveal who Julian actually is, including a letter that's addressed to Eric Tompkins, who was a CSIS instructor of Harry's, and who was down at the gala talking to Julian that night. So Eric, as it turns out, he is senior vice president and strategic planning and of strategic planning and special operations at Al Petrico, which that's a bombshell right there. So a member of CSIS on the Al Petrico payroll in an important role like that, and Julian had written him a letter explaining what he was doing with the AEA, having their meeting before the protest, and just kind of updating him on what's going on. And then he says something awfully ominous, basically that there are still more than enough left of the group to allow us to make our point on the 30th. I propose, therefore, that we proceed with final solution. Now, if that isn't an ominous phrase, I don't know what is. Most infamously used by the German dictator in World War II, whose name I can't say on YouTube, or we could get pulled. But that's what was used to describe what they wanted to do to the Jewish people. Extermination of those people. So, the final solution that doesn't conjure up anything good when you see something like that. So yeah, Harry is, like, okay, what is going on here? He finds a manifesto, and it's at least it's labeled manifesto, and it's basically, declaring war on the oil and gas industry. And it's very dramatic. It says, today's courageous act by our valiant members is the opening salvo in this war. Many battles remain, but we are confident that of our ultimate success. Those who are dedicated to the destruction of our mother Gaia, take notice. Your days are numbered. So they're using violent language, and so he's continuing to read, and then he discovers WSP files, meaning the Western Separatist Party. So he's like, what is going on here? He's trying to put all this together. How is he connected to the WSP on top of it? And So he's starting to put the pieces together, and I'm sitting here like trying to put the pieces together myself. Like, what is this? Um, and then the kicker is when Harry realizes the diesel fuel is and the bags of ammonium nitrate, they're clearly there for a nefarious purpose. This is what he had been suspicious of from the jump when he first saw that there at the farm in the previous section we covered. And then he remembers a class back at the academy where he had learned that ammonium nitrate and fuel oil are the terrorist's best friend. um, a handy little homemade explosive that's cheap, easy to make, relatively stable, and most importantly made from materials that can be obtained by just about anyone. And yeah, so he realizes like, okay, just as he's realizing it's all coming together and crystallizing that, okay, this guy is trying to build a bomb. He's about to commit a terrorist act. He's knocked out. In yet another exciting kind of cliffhanger moment, because that's where the section ends. He gets knocked out, everything goes black. I loved how you did that. I loved how you cut it off at such a momentous action, event, and leave us on the edge of our seats waiting to see what's going to happen. Um and also just gives you a break, like you were saying before. It gives the reader a little break from the intensity by flashing forward to the present time for the next section.
And it's funny, as a reader, that always bugged me when writers did that. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you get me all revved up and then you take me out of it. But being on the other side of it, I totally understand why that's done. I mean, it's done all the time. Look at TV. This is what happens just before they cut the commercial. That's a standard kind of mechanism, and it makes sense because yeah, it's that thing of like having your expectations build up and then take you out of it, and give you a chance to recover and then bring you back there. So
Yep. It can be maddening as a reader or a viewer, but I think it's a really effective technique.
yeah,
And so I think it's fitting how you do that at just the right moments again. And yeah, I gotta say, as I was reading this section, it took me by surprise because I couldn't put my finger on what Julian could actually be up to. I haven't, like, I'm new to the spy genre. I haven't read spy novels. I haven't really watched a lot of spy movies. So I did not see this coming, exactly what this big reveal was going to be with Julian. And I mean, I just knew that I trusted Harry. I knew his instincts had to be right and that Julian is up to no good. But what that would be, what that would amount to, I just didn't know. So this was an exciting reveal for me. The reveal of the manifesto part, that really piqued my interest a lot. Like, okay, this could not be good when you see something like that. Manifestos, or I mean, that immediately to me calls to mind, a lot of people who have committed, unfortunately, mass shootings, and also terrorist attacks. They write manifestos first. Now they're not always nefarious, of course, but it's a common device used by extremists. You know,
yes, absolutely.
yeah. So
Or by
Samuel,
people trying to pin the blame on terrorists.
yes, yes, right. That too. Yes, Samuel, the guy who ruined the Charlie Chaplin mustache. That's exactly who I was referring to. Um, my grandfather has a toothbrush mustache. Oh, really? Yeah, those aren't really in fashion. Hey, just me. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Um, and yeah, with the names, I'm not sure what's up with that, guys. Yeah, they were talking in the chat about how the names are now showing up with at symbols, and um and you can change it. I think you can maybe go into the settings and change it, but I have to look into it myself, so I'm not about that.
I wonder if it's got
Anyway,
anything to do with the Instagram connection, that making people easier to find on YouTube by having the same sort of handles as they have on Instagram.
it could be, and maybe they don't want people to be able to hide behind different names, because before you could just choose a different display name anytime you wanted, and so sometimes trolls can get away with stuff by doing that. You won't know who they are because they can pop up again with a different display name. So I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with trying to combat that. But
Well, someone pointed out in the chat that, my name hasn't changed, and I wondered if that had anything to do with the fact that I have a YouTube channel myself. And maybe they don't do it with people that have YouTube channels. I don't know. I have no idea what that's all about.
it's possible. Actually, did my name change? Let me see. I put something in the chat earlier. Oh yeah, mine didn't either. Huh. And I have a channel. So yeah, you're probably right about that, actually. Anyway, so so yeah, how did you come up with the inspiration for Julian Skane, Doug?
I was just thinking about that, and it's been so long ago now that it's hard for me to remember. But my sense is that, like a lot of the parts of the book, I didn't really know when I created the character of Julian where this was going to go. This kind of the details of this kind of built themselves as I wrote the story. So I wasn't 100% sure, I don't think, when I started down this road where it was going to end up.
Right. Right. So that's tricky, because you could have potentially written yourself into a corner, you know, um, starting off not really sure what his deal was going to be, but you came up with such a brilliant scheme for Julian that I would have thought that you had this in mind from the start.
Well, the thing is, I knew I had to have, it had to be a big deal, whatever happened. It had to be like some kind of terrorist thing that Harry thwarted. So I knew, I mean, the broad strokes were in place from the beginning. And I also knew, as the relationship between he and Marla built, that the typical damsel in distress thing, it's like, okay, whatever happens, she has to be put at risk, and Harry has to come and save the day, kind of thing, so that it doesn't just work on a sort of um, patriotic level; it works on a personal level too.
Mhm.
But yeah, that stuff sort of slowly evolved as I went through it, which is quite different from the way Marcy and I work when we write plays. We usually have these kind of details nailed down within an inch of their lives before we start writing dialogue. But when I wrote this book, it was much more loosey-goosey. I had a sort of general idea of where the thing was going. I had the basic story arc in place, but a lot of these details um, were not nailed down. And that's one of the reasons why there were so many points in the book where suddenly I'd go, like a character would do something, and I would be like you. I'd go, well, didn't see that coming. Didn't know that was going to happen. And there's a big one of those, which we haven't got to yet. That doesn't happen until later in the book, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Right. And what you were describing, it reminds me of a theme from your play Deadline, characters surprising the writer. It
Yes.
can so often happen, they can kind of in Deadline, they literally take on lives of their own, and they do things, seemingly of their own volition, but it's just a metaphor for the way that happens in the writing process.
Precisely.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's awesome. I think this was really well thought out. And yeah, I would not have guessed that you didn't have this in mind from the jump.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, getting back to it. So in the next section, um, so it's kind of like it kind of gives you whiplash, because it jumps from this line where Harry says, "I was just getting to my feet when suddenly I felt a crushing pain at the base of my skull and everything went black." Boom. End of section. And then it just it starts with such a light-hearted moment. Everything about the day was brisk, it says. The autumn wind whipping up Bay Street, the pace of the pedestrians on the sidewalk as they raced to get out of the cold, even the business in the Indigo bookstore inside the Manulife Center. And so he's just, Harry's just walking along on his way to a book signing for his autobiography. Um, so it's such a casual, calm scene. And I just love that, the juxtaposition of that with the tension of the previous section. And you just, it's just like you slam on the brakes, and it gives us a chance to kind of take a breather um and yeah, like, and wonder what's going to happen next. And yeah, as a reader, it can be frustrating, but I think ultimately it's effective to do that, to drag out the suspense that way.
Yeah.
um yeah, so yeah, there's a book signing already, so things are moving quickly with regard to the book. And I had a question about that, though. What about, I thought that there were two more signatures that Harry didn't get um, for the releases, the legal releases. Um, is that, did I
It
miss something?
that will get explained later on.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Because I
I
thought I didn't.
couldn't give the details of those two signings away too early without giving the game away. And you will
Oh,
see
okay,
when we get to that point of the book why I kept mum about that until as late as I do. It will make sense
okay.
in the end.
Well,
I mean, at
yeah,
this point, I guess the reader just sort of has to take it on faith that whatever those other two signatures were, he must have gotten them. That's kind of where we're at this point.
right. Yeah, that's what you have to assume. But it made me curious as to what happened there. And yeah, I figured that eventually you're going to address it because of the way that it was
Originally, in
brought
an
up.
earlier draft, there was a scene that dealt with this, but then I
Mhm.
realized that it was better to keep my cards closer to my chest about that whole thing. So I took that scene out, and it gets discussed in retrospect much later on instead.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, because the way that it was brought up, the fact that you deliberately, it was clearly to me a deliberate choice that you don't reveal who those two signatures need to come from. And in that scene, Pete just says, these two are deal breakers. You have to get these, or you're not getting the book published. That to me suggests that, okay, yeah, it's something that's going to be revealed later, and there's going to be something interesting revealed regarding it. And so you're not going to just skip it, you're going to circle back to that later, is what I
Yeah,
assume.
it does get dealt with.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So
And actually, the scene
mhm.
where we find out about those signatures, it is there. It just well, you'll see when you get to it.
Right. All right, so then we have the book signing scene, and it's so awkward. I just felt secondhand embarrassment for poor Harry, because he's sitting there and not a single person comes up and asks him to sign a copy of his book, or buys a copy of his book. And I just feel bad for him. It's Harry is such a sympathetic character that you just want to root for him. And it's, of course, it's a really disheartening thing to have no interest at all from anyone when he's launching the book and he's sitting there waiting to sign copies of it, you know um
Yes. It's well, and as he says himself, it's like straight out of Spinal Tap.
yeah. Now, Spinal Tap, that's a reference I didn't get, because I'm not familiar with that, actually.
Well, there's a scene in Spinal Tap where these guys have come out with their new album, which is called "Smell the Glove,"
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're all sitting in this record store for a signing event, and it's exactly what happens to Harry. Like nobody's coming. And the guy
Mhm.
who's put the whole thing together, the promoter, is played by, I forget his name. He was the band leader on the David Letterman show. He's going, it's my fault. It's here, kick my ass, because I didn't do my job right. That's kind of where we're at with this scene.
Okay. Um, yeah, a lot of references to things like that I missed because there are so many things I haven't seen. But anyway,
Well, you must see Spinal Tap. You absolutely must. It's a brilliant piece of satire. And just,
Spinal Tap.
it's
Okay.
fascinating to know that virtually all of the script was entirely improvised too.
No way. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
it's a brilliant film. You should have a movie watch party with that one. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I had never even heard of it. Is it? I just looked it up. Is it from 1984? Is it
Yep. And they
this
just
is
released a sequel. It just came out a couple of months ago. There's a sequel. Yeah, a second part,
Oh, that's awesome.
which I
Well, I'm
haven't
adding
seen
it
yet.
to my list.
Hmm.
I'm adding it to my list right now. Okay. So, okay, let me go back to my notes here. Um, so yeah, essentially, in a nutshell, so nobody shows up, and Olivia and Pete are both there, and Olivia is reassuring to Harry, and so is Tony, his publisher, who I believe he's also there, and of course, you know, they reassure him that this is only the beginning, and the book can still do well. He's a first time novelist. The book just came out, just give it time. Um and I thought there was a nice little moment to close out the scene with Pete, where you know Pete, who's usually he's not quick to offer any kind of compliments or reassurance to Harry, but and in particular on the book, he he was pretty blunt about how much he hated the book, and yet, he, as a show of support, he takes a copy of the book off the table, asks Harry to sign it for him, goes up to the front and buys the book, and then tries to convince everyone in line there that they should get a copy before they sell out. And he says that he's just doing it to help earn his 10% as his agent. But it's clear to me that he actually cares. They have kind of a pseudo father son dynamic with you know the kind of tough love variety of a father son dynamic.
Exactly. And this is one of those rare moments where, um, the that hard veneer kind of disappears for a bit, and we get to see the softy underneath in Pete. And yes, I mean, he hated the first draft that he saw, but presumably the book has advanced quite a bit since then. So I think that his liking of the book at this point is quite genuine. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, for Pete, he's kind of out of character for this. Like these kinds of scenes with Pete don't happen very often, and when they do, it's always awkward for Harry because he's not used to Pete acting this way.
Right. Yeah. There is a softy underneath that hard exterior, that sarcastic exterior of Pete. So I liked that. I liked that little moment between them. But now, of course, we get back to the action and jump back to 1991, and Harry wakes up. Well, you think he wakes up. I loved this fake out that you did, Doug. Um, it's
This
you
was
think
really hard to engineer, I got to tell you.
really. Well, yeah, so he wakes up, or so you think, and he's in the driver's seat of his beloved Beulah van, um, about to go into a ditch, right on the edge. He's trapped in the car. He's pinned inside. He can't get out. And he notices it's about to blow up. Like, it's starting to catch on fire. He's covered in gasoline, and he's he could be on the brink of getting blown up any moment. Um, I loved that. I really bought it too. Like I thought, okay, so Julian is has moved him into his car to make it look like he's crashed it, which is a classic technique or a tactic that's been done in books and films. Whenever someone is trying to get rid of somebody, yeah, you make it look like an accident and you stage a car wreck.
Yeah.
So I bought that completely, and until then it says I awoke for real this time to find myself chained to a chair in Julian's barn. Um, yeah, that I liked how you did that, and so you found that it was like tricky to engineer that little fake out. You said,
Yeah, well, I mean, it was getting out of it and not having it look like a really hokey device, you know?
yes,
And the thing that I landed on was, well, the elements of this dream that he's having have to come from the reality. He is chained up, he is getting covered in oil. So all of the things that are happening to him in this dream section as he slowly comes to are based in reality.
yes. I liked how you did that a lot. Yeah, because he feels something dripping into his eyes,
Yeah,
and his arms are pinned to his sides in the seat in the stream, so he can't move, he can't touch his face to see what's dripping and wipe it off. And when he wakes up for real, instead of having his arms pinned in a car, he's tied to a chair, and he still has something dripping, and as it turns out, he's got oil dripping on his face.
yeah.
So yeah, that was really well done, because in dreams, sometimes whatever you're experiencing as you're asleep can kind of seep into the dream. If you have some kind of sensory thing going on, you can feel it in the dream sometimes, and
Absolutely.
it'll
Yeah.
manifest. So yeah, that was really clever how you did that. Um and then what follows is just it's such an entertaining confrontation between the two of them. And like, you have the hero, the protagonist, facing down the evil mastermind, the evil adversary, and the mask comes off. It's that classic moment where the mask comes off and he reveals all of his plans, and of course he reveals everything, thinking that Harry's never getting out of there alive. So he tells him anything he wants to know. Um,
Which
and,
again is
and
another standard sort of, James Bond type trope.
yes, including the part where Harry said, he's basically he's keeping him talking as long as he can. He says, I figured I might as well keep him talking, as he didn't seem to be in any hurry to shoot me. And he just keeps asking him question after question, and that is a classic trope in this type of genre. And it's a really common misstep where the antagonist, instead of just pulling the trigger and shooting the person, they stand there talking for too long, and then something winds up going wrong, or the person gets away, someone comes and helps them. They talk for too long and they reveal too much, because they get cocky, they get too self-assured that they have this person right where they want them. And so yeah, I loved how you executed that trope in this scene.
And I wanted it to adhere to the sort of James Bond model where, the method of killing the hero is always like really outlandish, you know.
Mhm.
But by the same token, I had to make it, believable to some extent. And that's why I came up with Julian's argument about why he doesn't just shoot Harry. Like he has a decent reason for that. He wants them to find a body. He doesn't want them to be able to identify it, and he doesn't want to leave any other evidence around that might suggest something other than oh, this guy accidentally blew himself up, you know?
Yes, which makes complete sense. Um, yeah, he doesn't. It kills two birds with one stone. He'll get rid of
So to speak.
Harry. Yeah, he'll get rid of Harry, and what he wants is for people to just assume that Julian, so-called Julian, um, accidentally blew himself up in the middle of all of this. And Julian doesn't even exist. He's, he's a made up, um, you know, what do you call it?
Yeah, it's a fake identity.
A fake identity. Yeah, this is another word I was reaching for. I can't remember at the moment, um, but yeah,
Symbiote?
yeah. So exactly. So he just, he wants everyone to think that Julian just accidentally blew himself up, and and he doesn't actually exist. So like his real identity, we don't even know what that is at the moment, um but yeah, it'll work itself out that way. He'll get rid of a lot of evidence, the hard drives, all of that stuff, and make it look like he just screwed up and it was an accident. And he'll have copies of the fake manifesto he wrote strewn all over the place on purpose too.
Yeah.
So yeah, um but yeah, he basically has Harry strapped to a chair with a giant drum or something. I forget what you called it, of oil dripping on his head from above. And yeah, so and he's surrounded by explosive materials.
Well,
So,
the drum contains ammonium nitrate as well. It's basically an info bomb that's
right.
suspended over his head, you know?
Right. So, yeah, it's a really over the top way to kill someone, but it also makes total sense to do it that way. He happened to have several of these anyway. He had more than enough bombs to take care of what he needed to do down at the oil factory. So he said he could spare one to
Sure.
get rid of Harry, which is not part of his plan, of course. He didn't expect Harry to be there, but he could spare one. So I like how that worked out. So you could get this big dramatic murder attempt, but it also makes plausible sense too. Uh, yeah, Julian he comes off as such a great villain in this scene. Like a real psychopath. I really enjoyed this whole segment where he drops the snake oil salesman act and the real him comes out. And basically in a nutshell, Julian is a mole. He works for Al Petrico. He infiltrated the AEA to eradicate them. He's planning on having them blow up. Well, he's planning on blowing up the pump jack down at the oil refinery, and the members of the AEA would blow up along with it, making it look like they did it to themselves, like eco terrorists.
Exactly.
It's a brilliant scheme. It really is. And um what he wants to know though is what's the WSP connection, the Western Separatist Party. And then now now it becomes clear, it comes into focus why you delved a bit into a history lesson earlier in the book. When Harry was at the academy, there was a course he had to take on strategic Canadian politics, and he learned, about the different interests in different parts of Canada and how they've diverged. And so here you have Julian explaining the way that they feel in a little summary. He says that the WSP, meaning the Western Separatist Party, and the oil industry are old pals. After all, our interests align pretty well. You don't know what it's like for those of us who live out here in the West. For as long as we've been a part of this country, we've had little control over our own fate. The whole notion of democracy in this country is a joke for us. In every federal election I can recall, the result has been determined before a single vote west of Ontario has ever been counted. Do you have any idea the kind of alienation that can generate? We in the West are beginning to realize that the only way we'll ever achieve self-determination is to secede, and the people aren't the only ones waking up to this idea. The oil and gas industry is too. They're a pretty smart bunch, after all. They understand that a government based in Calgary or Edmonton, or even Winnipeg for that matter, will be much more sympathetic to their needs than those fools in Ottawa could ever hope to be. So there you have his motivation. So we learn his motivation for why exactly he's aligned with both the oil industry and the WSP. And now it makes sense. Now we understand where this history lesson comes into play. The different competing interests of various regions in Canada, which this is actually all new to me. I hadn't been aware of that situation, and I know that's a real thing. That it's actual. These are actual Canadian political issues that you're pulling from for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of needed them in order for this story, as I've constructed it, to make sense and to be credible, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was educational for me. I find it interesting to learn about we have our own divisive politics, of course, in America, and
Do
there
you
are
really?
yeah. Oh yeah, it's yeah, we've got our own forces, our own voices calling for secession, even that we should just some people should just secede from the rest of the country, and so yeah, it's interesting to learn more about Canada and your political issues, and I get apparently, I mean, it sounds to me like the population in the West must be just so much lower that their influence is not big enough over the elections. So
Yes, that's exactly the problem.
yeah, so they don't feel like their interests are being represented fairly. They're
Well, and
outnumbered.
also, it's also, that what their economies are based on. You look at Alberta, for instance, and yeah, there's a lot of farming in Alberta, but it's a huge the oil and gas industry is a huge thing in Alberta. It's a huge part of the economy. And as Julian himself explains to Harry in this scene, it's their ace in the hole, because one of the problems with parts of countries that want to secede from bigger countries is what's going to happen to their economy if they do that. But as Julian points out, Alberta has, in the tar sands or the oil sands, Alberta has the largest deposit of oil on the planet, you know? So they've got their ticket to a nice, stable economy right there, at least in Julian's eyes, you know?
Mhm. Right. So yeah, like Julian it says, they are the largest deposit of oil on this planet, and they're all right here. So that meaning the oil sands. They're all
Yes.
right here. Um and once they but of course extracting it though, it's going to cause a lot of environmental damage, and he points out that the oil industry doesn't care about that. They just look at it like, well, the oil sands are in the middle of nowhere anyway, where very few people live. And he says, so if in the process we kill off a few caribou or rainbow trout or whatever, what's the big deal? Um, and the rest of society doesn't see it that way though. And the longer groups like the AEA are allowed to continue squawking, now this line was crazy to me. The longer groups like the AEA are allowed to continue squawking about a few dead trees or mutated fish or kids on reserves contracting cancer, the less sympathetic people will be to our agenda. Wow. I mean, I can understand, scoffing at a few dead trees or maybe even mutated fish, although I would care about that. But kids on reserves contracting cancer, the sad thing is, it's all too true that the oil and gas industry just doesn't care about really dire consequences of some of their actions, that including things like that. I mean, that's just reality, and they're closing their eyes to it, and they just don't care.
Well,
Um,
and that's true of industry in general. I mean, look at the gun lobby. Look at the tobacco industry. You know, those people have
yep,
known for years that their products are killing people by the thousands, and they don't care. You know.
exactly. And it's absolutely right, because their bottom line is profit. That's all they care about at the end of the day.
Yep.
So yeah, what this guy is saying, it sounds crazy. It sounds like wild, but no, this is exactly how big business actually treats issues like this.
Sure.
And yeah, so I liked how you shone a spotlight on that, in this book. Um, so yeah, so basically Julian wanted to they wanted to discredit the environmentalists. So that's why they're staging this little act of terrorism to make it look like the environmentalists are doing it, and ironically generate sympathy for, of all things, the oil lobby. I mean, the oil industry. Like, that's not exactly a common source of, or a common recipient of public sympathy, but in this case, what a way to do it. So that was the plan. That was the evil genius plan, and pretty clever at that. Like Samuel said, the long evil villain monologue is always a must. Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
yes, yes, it is. And I loved how this was done. Was it fun? Was it fun writing this evil villain monologue that he delivers?
Though this whole section of the book, I think, is probably my favorite part. Just from the part that uh, Marla and Harry, you know, from right from the point where she admits that she's a member of CSIS, and then of course we jump back to the present day. But in their timeline, from that point until when this this scene in 1991 finally gets resolved, is one of my favorite parts of the book.
Well,
This scene included, of course, because you know it all
yeah.
becomes clear, and the bit that's just coming up is one of my particular favorites.
Oh, awesome. This has to be my favorite section so far, for sure. And I love a good confrontation, between a protagonist and, the evil villain of the story, and this doesn't disappoint. Um, and yeah, so it's, yeah, essentially that was the plan, to try to discredit the AEA and the environmentalists. And then by the time they'd get their act together again, oil sands development would be a done deal. Um, and this has all the makings of you know a, a perfect means in their minds anyway, the WSP, this would be a perfect means of eventually seceding from the country, generating enough money to start their own country, and
Yeah,
secede from Canada. It's just their
yeah,
ultimate goal. Um, so yeah, it's not just about helping the oil industry. Like, you know, they have an even broader mission.
yeah.
And yeah, um so Harry is indeed sitting under an info bomb, which is the type that he learned about in spy school. And let's see. Let's see. Okay, I covered that part. And then there's the manifestos. They're being faxed to every media outlet around the country. Um, the bogus manifestos that are supposedly written by the AEA. And that way, they'll have the blame firmly placed on the AEA for the explosion that's planned, out at the oil company. So yeah, that's Julian's evil plan. And yeah, even now, like, this was not planned at all, Harry showing up there, but but he says this way he can kill two birds with one stone. He says, I can get rid of you and Julian Novak at the same time, meaning himself, his fake identity. And they'll assume that it was I who accidentally blew himself up while assembling one of the terrorist bombs used at Bow Island. And since Julian Novak doesn't exist, the investigation into his background will come up empty. And then that's it's brilliant, really. He comes up with that just on the spot. Um, and Harry wonders why don't you just slit my throat or strangle me or something like that, something simpler than blowing him up. And I like how Julian says, "Oh no, God no, it's much too messy. It's not my style at all." This is so evil villain genius of him. He says, I find the idea of you sitting here trapped, pondering how thoroughly you've been outfoxed and wondering just how long before the Big Bang, how long you had before the Big Bang, much more attractive. Uh, it's so sinister. He smiles. He says, "Truth be known, just thinking about it gets me a little aroused." It's creepy.
As it's intended to be.
Yeah. And and Harry aptly points out, at least I can take some satisfaction in knowing I had you pegged. I knew the night we met that you were a psychopath. And this line was great. Julian says, "You say that like it's a bad thing, Harry. In my line of work, it's more like a job requirement." Yeah, I I think that's that's fitting. And yeah, so
And really, the only other thing in this scene that we learn that is kind of important is that number one, because Julian has been connected with Eric Tompkins,
yeah,
he's known all along that all the gals in the AEA and Harry work for CSIS.
right.
So they've been trying so hard to keep this information from him, and he's known all along. So there's
Yep,
that, and there's also the fact that when this happens, Harry thinks that well, CSIS will explain to the world what actually happened. They'll figure it out. And, it wasn't the AEA, it was these guys. And Julian's like, CSIS isn't going to say anything because they're going to look like idiots if they do. And Harry realizes, yeah, you're absolutely right. We're fucked. You know?
yeah, yeah. He's like, Caesar would just sweep this whole thing under the rug. So, they'll go with the public fiction that this was an act of eco-terrorism, if only to cover their own asses. So yeah, uh, that's that. And Julian leaves with one last creepy villain line, saying, I'll close the door before I go, Harry. Wouldn't want you to catch your death of cold, now, would we?" as as he's about to die of an explosion. And he's smiling as he goes too. That's a nice touch.
Yeah,
Um,
just a little toot toot of the horn as he drives away.
yeah. That was great. One last little cherry on top. That was just such a fun scene. Samuel said, "I bet if this happened in real life, anti-environmentalists would still believe the conspiracy Julian tried to push." Oh, I believe that 100%.
Sure, sure.
Yes.
Disinformation is alive and well and living on the internet.
Yes, it is, unfortunately. But yeah, so after Julian leaves, you know, Harry is just left to figure out how he's going to get himself out of this. He basically has to pull a Houdini act, because he's chained up. He's ironically chained up using the very chains that he volunteered to go pick up for the group.
Yeah.
He's yeah, he's chained with some of those anyway. And so he remembers this character from some books he loved in high school called Slippery Jim Degree. Is that how you say it?
Degrees, yeah.
Degrees. Um, and he's always getting himself into sticky situations and somehow getting out of it. And Harry wonders, how would the stainless steel rat free himself from this mess? Uh, and then this Slippery Jim nickname reminds him or gives him some inspiration, like the oil that's currently dripping on him from overhead. He could use this to lubricate his arms and hands enough that he could try to slip his way out of the chains. Really clever, which then he does. He has to really contort himself to get this, oil to get on his arms and hands, thoroughly enough that he's able to wriggle his way out of his chains, which really does remind me of a Houdini routine. And is Slippery Jim like an actual? Is that a character from something you read in high school, Doug?
Yeah, the stainless steel rat books are real. That's all real. And yeah, his name is Jim Degrees, but because he's like this guy, he was a thief who gets hired to, work for the Galactic Police or whatever, either that or spend the rest of his life in jail. And so he has all those skills, and he's known as Slippery Jim for that reason.
I figured that was pulled from your actual experience reading that. Um, and yeah, it makes for great inspiration here. And he manages to get himself out of the chains and get himself out of there. Oh,
Now, I
hi,
have to tell
Mister.
you, when I was writing this description of how he gets out, I would
Yeah.
literally sit physically in a chair and do all of the stuff that he describes in this paragraph, trying to figure out if it was actually physically possible. And I mean, there is a certain amount of artistic license here because if you were tied tightly enough with the chains, all the oil in the world probably wouldn't help you. But I still find myself every time I read this passage contorting myself and, trying to do all this stuff to figure out if I could actually do it.
You're right. I was yeah, as I was reading it, I was thinking like, could this actually be done? But I figured you must have thought it through in detail like that, to try to make that as realistic as possible. So it's not just a magic act. Like this is something that maybe could be done.
It
So
demands a certain suspension of disbelief, but yeah, if the conditions were right, you could get away with this.
right. Um and hello, Miss J's Reviews. Nice to see you. We're doing well. Hope you're doing well too. Um and yes, I have to agree with this statement, Doc. Life is a lazy Susan of shit sandwiches. Yes, it really is. Uh and yeah, what a shit sandwich Harry is dealt in this scene, but he's he, he's got to figure his way out of it. Once he gets out of the chains, he's he's scrambling around looking for some of the evidence he had gathered. It's 1991, so some of the evidence he collected is on a floppy disk. I remember those good old floppy disks, and some papers he collected, and he manages to grab those. Um, and but he's got most certainly he's got a concussion, so he's struggling with that at the same time, and he may have gotten free of the chains, but he's still got to get himself out of there safely. So you really feel the tension still, because he doesn't know when the bomb is going to go off.
Yeah.
He finally is feeling steady enough that he's able to climb up and find the timer on it. He sees it's at 1 minute 29 seconds, not much time at all. And he thinks he could just walk out, but he finds himself locked in. So now he's got to figure out, okay, how is he going to get out of there? He can't find anything to chop his way out, an axe or something like that. He jumps in the car that's in there, but unfortunately, it's not going to be as easy as I knew that he wouldn't find the keys in there. It wouldn't be as easy as that. So he's got to resort to hot wiring the car, which he learned in spy school. And yeah, I really I loved how he manages to pull this off in such a short time. And I know people can do it. Like, it sounds really complicated, hot wiring a car, but if you know what you're doing, that can be done really quickly. Um, but yeah, this whole scene keeps you on the edge of your seat. You know that he's going to get out of it. Of course, he's going to make it because you read about him in the future. But at the same time, it's just exciting reading, like, okay, how is he going to get out of it exactly?
Right.
Like, because he keeps running into complication after complication, and how is he going to figure this out? So it's very entertaining. um and I loved the part where he um he after he hotwires the thing, he's just about to try just driving through the barn doors, or through the wall or what have you. When he doesn't even get a chance to do that, the explosion from the bomb sends him flying out of the barn. And the way you described that was great. Like, um I liked how you described it as the world suddenly turned bright white. Every window in the car exploded, and an invisible hand picked up the Jag and me along with it and hurled us through the doors into the cold, fresh air beyond. Um, the hood of the car rose up in a parabolic arc until I could see nothing but sky outside the now non existent windshield. Then it pitched forward and headed earthward again. I threw my arms in front of my face to brace myself for what promised to be a very rough landing. I was spared that, however, when the Jag came to rest in a huge pile of cow manure in the yard outside the barn. So, which is a humorous image to conclude an extremely intense scene. Um, you're so great at painting a picture with your descriptive writing. So I could just envision all of that so well. And
Well,
it's
and the details of that description come directly from figuring out, okay, how would this happen? What would the sequence of events be if this
mhm,
bomb went off just as he was racing towards the doors? Like I had to sort of sit down and think about the physics of all of that and what's around outside, like what's the reality? I mean, the cows in the barn are up on the second floor. It would only make sense that there would be a big pile of manure just outside the bottom door, on the ground there. That's probably where Julian would be shoveling it on a daily basis. So
mhm.
that all made logical sense, and so then it was just a question of getting it all down in detail. But yeah, if you work that stuff out in enough detail, then the description of it kind of takes care of itself, and you sort of buy into the reality of it.
Yeah.
In enough
Oh,
detail, then
yes, absolutely. And and it sounds straight out of like a Michael Bay film with the gigantic dramatic explosion. Um but not to excess, as Michael Bay is wont to do. He has a bit too many explosions. But if you were ever to have this book made into a movie, I think the budget would be pretty big with the two explosions in this section. That would cost quite a bit of money.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And let's see. So then, speaking of the cows, you mentioned the cows. I liked that Harry didn't forget about the poor cows who were still stuck on the first level of the barn. And after he manages to get himself out of there safely, he goes in there and risks his life to free the cows and get them out of there. I liked that.
Of course he does. He's Harry. He has to.
Of course. Yeah. He loves the earth. Of course, he's going to be an animal lover too. So he's not going to leave the cows in there. And he saves them all and just barely gets out of there alive himself. And from there, he so let's see. He notices Marla's car is on the property, so he knows she and her friends have they met up there as planned to go off to the protest that they were going to stage that night. And there's no dial tone on the phone in the house, so he's not able to use that. And it's 1991, so he doesn't have a cell phone, which would have made things a lot easier. Narratives are different nowadays. Having to write action scenes and other genres too. The advent of cell phones, it really changes things and makes predicaments a little too easy to get out of. But back then, you really feel more tension because he's cut off from everyone. He can't just grab a cell phone and call anyone to warn them.
That's right.
So, yeah, instead he has no choice but to just get in his car and race down to the oil plant and try to, get there before it's too late. He can't call the police and get them in on it or anything. He's got to go handle it himself. If this were taking place nowadays, with cell phones, you'd have to find some excuse, like something happened to his phone or whatnot. But hello, Faith and Repentance. Much love to you too. Nice to see you. We are just discussing, for you or anyone else joining us, we are discussing up to page 305 today in Doug's book, which is really the most climactic part of the book. And yeah, we're proceeding through that right now. So Harry, he races down to try to, catch, to stop this explosion from blowing up his girlfriend and his friends before it's too late. And he takes off and that's that. And then we have, once again, the action is broken up by a jump to the present day with Pete. And we get a little update on the progress of his book. And the book sales have continued to be slow for Harry, and he's gotten in a habit of checking them every day. And then he's shocked to find overnight one day that the sales go from like 20 something copies sold to I forget, it was like 2,400 or something like that. It was
went from 23 to a little over 2,000.
Yeah, it was a huge spike in sales, to his shock. And Pete alerts him to it, and he looks at this article Pete directed him to, and he discovers the reason for it is that a bunch of conspiracy theorists have latched on to this book, wondering if it's not actually a work of fiction. Is it actually a thinly veiled, fictionalized account of an actual event that took place in Bow Island, Alberta? So this is so true to life, the way things are now. Conspiracy theories have just exploded with recent years. The social media just getting them spread everywhere. And so yeah, this makes complete sense to me that this would be a reason why sales of his book would go through the roof. Unfortunately, conspiracy theories, they're just so prevalent that it's shocking to me how many people are taken in by the wildest things. And so this is what's causing people to buy his book in droves all of a sudden. And let's see. So Pete is happy about it. He's saying, like, this is free promotion. This is great. He's glad that this is happening. And Harry says that, he realizes that his fondest and most optimistic wishes for the book's success had come true. It began to dawn on me that this might end up being a classic case of be careful what you wish for. Life was about to get a lot more complicated. So I took a note of that and I highlighted it because I thought that's probably going to be significant later. I'm sure there will be complications that come from the success of this book. That will come later. Be careful what you wish for. This is exactly what he dreamed of. He wanted to see his book do well like this, but yeah, notoriety can pose all kinds of unexpected complications.
Well, when I was trying to shop this book around to literary agents and publishers, I had to come up with a log line and a little synopsis. And in the synopsis, the way I describe the book is, I talk a little bit about Harry becoming a CSIS agent and how, um, like the book starts in the present day and he's written this memoir, and then we go back to see him get recruited and trained as a CSIS agent. And then as the book progresses, all these things happened in the past and ghosts of them start appearing in the present day. And that's kind of what the whole mechanism is all about between the two time periods. Everything that happens in the present day is an echo of 30 odd years ago, on all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of levels, the people, the events, the policies, the politics. It all
Mm-hmm.
references back to when he was just starting out.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, so past and present in the book, they're woven together seamlessly, I think. And um yeah, so I'll be interested to see going forward if he's right, and maybe he'll get more than he bargained for with the success of his book. Um so the book just becomes a bestseller really fast. And it's even more than they could have hoped for. But I thought this was an interesting little moment. Pete says, as of about 5 minutes ago, you were over 7,000 copies and climbing. This is more than we could have hoped for. And Harry says, who is this we you're talking about? And just what is it they're hoping for exactly? Pete frowned. We is us, of course. You, me, Olivia, the folks at Franklin Tuttle. And what we're hoping for is the book becoming a huge hit, of course. Duh. But Harry says, nice try. How about cutting the bullshit and telling me the truth for once? And Pete says, I don't know what you mean, frowning. It was a good act, betrayed only by his hand reaching up and messing with his hair. So, with his acute perceptiveness, Harry notices a tell. That's something that he's always been good at, and training with Olivia helped him even more with identifying tells. And so he notices this little act, this little just messy with his hair. For him, he sees it as a tell that Pete is hiding something.
Yeah.
Um, and that is still a mystery at this point. We don't know what that's about. Um, why exactly? Who is this we Pete's talking about, and what is it exactly they're hoping for? Um, but but then let's see. And Harry points out that CSIS obviously has an agenda at work here. This is something I've been wondering for the whole book too, the entire book. Harry says there's no way the director would have allowed me to publish otherwise. I have no idea what it is, but the commercial success of this book must be an essential part of it, which is why they've devoted the resources they have to making this happen. I'm assuming you're the one behind lonegunman.com. That's the conspiracy website. But Pete denies that. He says no, he's not responsible for that. But Harry keeps pressing him. Well, why is the success of my book so damn important? And Pete, brushes it off, and he basically um admits with there is something that he's hiding, but he's not going to say. He says, you'd think that after all this time you'd understand the concept of need to know. when are you ever going to get it through your head that there are things they cannot tell you? That's the way this works. So yeah, that's something I've been wondering about this whole book. Why CSIS wants this done so much. So yeah.
You're not alone. It drove my first editor crazy too. Just like the train wreck thing, she kept asking, why is this happening? And, and then of course, eventually it gets explained, actually not very far from where we are right now. It does get explained. And you sort of go, oh, okay. You know, it
Yeah,
actually gets explained in levels. I mean, we get an explanation and then we find out that's not the whole truth. And then we get what's really going on. But that all takes time. So be
right.
patient.
Oh yeah. I believe it's coming eventually. Um and Harry is just so frustrated with this need to know basis response from Pete, and he points out that um people like him in the field have to make decisions on the fly all the time without calling for permission. And the less they know, he says, the less we know about your precious big picture, the greater chance we have of making the wrong decisions. And I'm sure that's true in real life for people in that field. They don't have enough information. Sometimes they could make the wrong decisions.
And this is
And
a really important point that Harry's making here, because again, this will come back to haunt us later in the book. This little paragraph right here.
right. See, I had a feeling, so I highlighted it, because I got the sense that this is setting something up later. So we'll have to wait and see where that's going to come into play. And 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 Harry, Pete just brushes off Harry's concerns, and if anyone asks him anything about the book, whether it's true or what, all he has to do is just stick to the story. The book's a work of fiction, and he can't say anything else anyway, or he'll get thrown in prison. So that's that.
It's awfully nice of Pete to point that out.
Yeah, yeah. He says, because we'll throw your ass in prison if you tell anyone. That's yeah, nice phrasing too. Um, but that's anyway. I liked how that ended up. It was funny. He's Harry just kind of leaves in a huff, saying, "I've got to go. Thanks for buying me lunch." Pete's like, "Who said I was buying you lunch?" Harry just says, "Fuck you, Pete," and leaves.
Yes, I like that exchange myself quite a
I
bit.
enjoyed that.
It's about
Um,
time Harry told Pete to go fuck himself.
yes. Love it. Faith said, "Hey Doug, excited to get this preview of your book. Thanks very much for sharing all that you do with us. I feel very blessed to be part of this group and get to share in your life's ventures." Aw,
Bless you, Faith.
that's
Thank you very
lovely.
much.
That's lovely. Yes, thank you, Faith. That's so kind. She said, "I'm going to rewind a couple minutes. Be right back." Okay. Um, Gonna rewind the live a little bit. So, okay. So getting back into it, we jump back into the action, going back to 1991, and Harry is racing to Bow Island, uh, and in Beulah, and Beulah has been, um, a wreck this whole book. It was only a matter of time before this was going to pose a problem. This van has been falling apart, so that's about to come to a head.
Mhm.
Um, and he approaches as he's getting close to um the plant, the oil plant. He sees Julie, none other than Julian, in his car. Julian spots him and turns the wheel, starts to drive straight for him. And Harry, courageously, actually decides to, like, just play ball, and uh instead of trying to avoid him, he's like, "Okay, so you want to play chicken, do you, asshole? Fine, let's see who blinks first." And he steps on the gas and points his car right at Julian's. um and neither of them seems to be backing down. They're both headed straight for each other, and then finally Beulah, I knew something had to happen eventually with this van at a really inopportune moment. Beulah's brakes go out, so at the last moment he tries to avoid Julian's car and brake, turn the wheel and brake, but he can't because the brakes go out. So at the last moment, Julian also tries to avoid him, and like they wind up crashing into each other. Julian's car goes careening off into a ditch, and it appears he, at the time, he may even be dead. But he's laying there passed out for the time being. So that was a tense moment. And amazingly though, Harry's okay. He's really gotten banged up the course of this night, and it's still not over. He's been in a car accident on top of it. He's already got a concussion now, probably add whiplash to that. But he still manages to, get out of the car and attend to Beulah, and he manages to do like a quick job on the brakes and make it work, just at least for the time being, a temporary fix, so that he can get the car going, get it back down the road to the oil plant, and she manages to do. It kind of reminds me of like a little MacGyver action that he does. The way he's able to get the car going again, get the brakes just sort of temporarily fixed so that he can drive.
That's actually an easier fix than you might think. What he does, it's
Oh yeah,
you wouldn't want to leave it that way permanently, but in the short term, yeah, the van would be fine. Once the brake fluid gets through the line again and the brakes firm up, yeah, they'd be okay because he's patched the leak basically.
right. So yeah,
But it's not a permanent solution.
yeah. I don't know much about cars, but I figured that's got to be a temporary fix.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, he goes to the plant and he confronts a security guard, um, who's asleep like an idiot. He's oblivious to everything that's been going on, just like Harry ascertained when he was casing the place before. The
Yeah.
security is really lax at this place, and here this dumbass is just asleep and oblivious to all that's going on his watch. And he tries to, of course, stop Harry from getting in. He's not listening. Harry's telling him there's a bomb in there, you need to let me in. The guy won't listen. He says he's going to call the cops, and finally Harry just barrels through. Basically says, go ahead, that's the first intelligent thing you've said, and then barrels through the gate with Beulah. He gets in there, he finds all the ladies, Marla and the rest, chained up with a bunch of bombs around them. So they have a brief moment of relief before it's now down to another tense situation. Like, how is he going to get them out of this? Because of course it's not as simple as he thinks at first. There are no keys in the glove compartment. He thought that he had a spare set of keys to those chains, which he himself picked up, but they're not there. So then he's got to figure out another, like basically pull another Houdini or MacGyver trick and chains. So yeah, that was another fun scene to read as he's trying to figure this out. Okay, how is he going to do this? And they're all chained up really tightly, but he figures out, just with the full of a chain being only as strong as its weight. He just finds a strategically placed weak link and breaks it with a crowbar from his van. He can hopefully get them out of it, get the chains loose enough that they can get out. So that's what he does. So I thought was really clever. Um, and it takes him a couple of tries and a lot of discomfort for the women in the process, but he's able to do it. Yeah, another really fun scene to read, and including the dialogue back and forth with this blonde woman who's really sarcastic and swearing at him like a sailor.
Yeah,
I
I love
enjoyed,
it in bits.
I enjoyed that. Yeah.
And he never
Um,
finds out her name either.
oh, he just refers to her as Blondie.
Yeah.
He's like, he says that I can never remember this woman's name, and so in the book itself, he's referring to her as Blondie. Um, yeah, he's yeah, like for example, he says that I think I might know how to solve this, but it means giving you all the big squeeze. Think you can handle it? And Blondie says, beats getting blown to fucking smithereens. He says, I was beginning to like this woman. I guess he likes her spirit.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, um, he's working on that, and she's like yelling, "Motherfucker!" I enjoyed her myself. I would have liked to have more of her. Um, but anyway, so he manages to break the chain. Um, it takes him 2 tries, but he's able to do it with the crowbar and kind of jumping on it using his weight to, jump up on top of the chain, I guess.
Well, no, it's the crowbar. What he does is he wedges the crowbar into the chain and
Yeah.
he winds it around until it's got a lot of torque, so that then the torque is holding the crowbar underneath the crossbar on the pump jack.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
he stands up on it like a skateboarder, and he starts jumping up and down, putting as much pressure as he can on the chain in the hope that eventually the crowbar will weaken the link enough to break it.
Right. Right. See, yeah, see, I wouldn't have had any clue how to write a scene like that because I wouldn't have known how this could work. Um, so it just, just the technical issue of it all. But the way you describe it makes total sense.
And I can't honestly tell you if this would work, but yeah, I had to sit down and sort of work out, okay, what could he do here that might do it, you know? And it's one of the reasons why I have his success be as incremental as it is. Because of course, after he's broken the chain, it takes him a while before he realizes it, you know?
Right.
He doesn't see that one of the links is actually broken until some light reflects off it.
Right. Yeah, it sounds realistic to me. You had me convinced. I don't know whether it would work in real life or not. I wouldn't know, but
A classic case of verisimilitude.
right. No, Faith said, "This is my first preview of the book, and already I'm intrigued. Are there copies for sale?" Well, actually, you can get a copy for free. And Doug has been kind enough to provide free PDF copies to anyone who would like one, and I would be happy to send you one. If you would like, you can email me at JulieBDeepDives@gmail.com, and I can send it to you via email. So free of charge. And just to warn you, we are talking like in detail about the events of the book. So there are a lot of spoilers, especially in this section that we're talking about right now. So if you don't want spoilers, I don't want to chase you away, Faith, but if you don't want spoilers, then just FYI, we are going in detail into the book. And yes, I'll be happy to send you a copy for free. Yes. So yeah, you can just email me and we'll do that. She said that's how we do things up north. Maine was almost Canadian. It counts. Oh. Well, yeah, Maine is so close to Canada, right? So I'm guessing she's from Maine. Right. She said the car part rigged. Whoops, still behind. Yeah, she's a little bit behind us. Um, Amy said, "I'm being quiet so I don't get myself in trouble." I don't know what you mean, silly Amy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to explain that one, Amy.
Oh, okay. Um, anyway, uh, so let's see. Oh, and so after he frees the ladies, they book it out of there, and on their way out, of course, the dumbass security guard tries to stop them, and once again, they're warning him like the place is about to blow. You have to get out of here. And Blondie had the best lines to him. She says, "Are you deaf, fat ass? There's a shitload of explosives back there, and they're going to vaporize this whole goddamn place any second. Now get the fuck out of here." That was great. And that's the only thing that got the guy to actually listen and book it out of there himself. Um, and amazingly be able to run fast for a big guy. Um, and so they all take off. Julian appears like he's dead at first as they're driving by, but then he starts to move, and they debate whether or not to stop. But ultimately, Harry thinks it's best to just to not let him discover that they're alive just yet and get out of there. So that's what they do, which is a smart choice. Um, yeah, so they get out of there, and then as they're driving though, they see that Julian in the rearview mirror, like they can see he actually not only comes to, he drives his Range Rover toward the plant's entrance, like, and just as he's doing that, the whole place goes up in a gigantic explosion. Another really vivid description here, where you said, "In an instant, the world went from darkness to broad daylight." Um, and then you said, "It was like staring into the sun. A second or two later, we were assaulted by a terrifically loud, deep whump, as though someone had turned up the bass to maximum on some celestial sound system." Um, and there's a mushroom cloud, and um, the buildings just all, like, explode, or burst into flames. And yeah, and again, if this were made into a movie, I imagine that would be an expensive thing to shoot.
Indeed.
You know, um,
Now,
but
one important detail here I should point
yes.
out is that when he drives to the plant, he doesn't just drive straight in. He stops on the driveway, like there's a ditch on the side of the road. And when the driveway goes over the ditch, he stops there and he just sits there idling for a minute before
Mhm.
suddenly the vehicle takes off and heads straight into the plant just before the bomb goes off. And that's an important detail that will be clarified later. But just so you know, I thought I should put a pin on that.
Yeah, I was wondering about that actually, because I couldn't understand why he sat there idling and then just starts booking it, barreling quickly toward the plant. He starts driving straight toward it, which doesn't make any sense, knowing the bomb is gonna go off so soon. But yeah, I'm sure you're gonna explain that later in the book.
Yeah,
So.
we will come back to this.
And Samuel had said that it depends on the chain. You can cut some chains with an axe. Oh, okay.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah.
Didn't know that. Um, Amy said I was going to be bad and say I want to taste the ear. um, and anyway, so yeah, so that's that. They get out of there, um, and yeah, that's the end of the huge climax, confrontation with Julian, and the protest down at the plant. Tis Yeah, such an exciting, fun section of the book to read. Okay, of course we're not done. There's still a little bit more to cover here, and they, as they're driving away, they all just kind of compare notes. and fill each other in on what happened. Harry explains to the ladies what he found at Julian's farm, and the ladies explain what happened when they got there to the plant. And let's see. And also, the women were surprised to find out that Eric Tompkins is actually he's an instructor working for CSIS too. And he's got some major connections. So that's how he found out about the AEA and their CSIS connection, which is how Julian knew all along that they were working for CSIS.
Exactly.
So we get that clarification, and yeah, so they get away, and they get the guy at the hotel desk to print out the information that's on the floppy disk for them. He's not thrilled about helping them because the floppy is all drenched in, or smelling of oil anyway. But
And of course, the two of them look like they've just come from a war zone anyway.
yeah,
You know, it's like, who are
yeah,
these vagrants? You know?
yeah, yeah, they're pretty messed up. And Harry himself is doused in oil himself. But yeah, so they so Harry leaves an urgent message for Pete, an emergency message. Pete responds to him right away, and Harry tells him everything that happened, um and basically, he explains, he couldn't have told Pete any sooner what was going on. He couldn't have wasted time looking for a phone booth or a phone somewhere. He had to just go down there and handle it himself. Or they would have gotten blown up before the cops could have come in and helped. So he was on his own, and
And to harken back to your note about cell phones, even in today's world with cell phones, if you called the RCMP, if you were a couple of hours drive away from somewhere and called them and told them about this, there's no way they would be able to get people there. And like, for something of this size and nature, to get there, get organized and rescue people and stuff, that's not going to happen in 2 hours. You know,
no,
because wherever the RCMP guys are, they've got to travel to get there as well, and they've got to organize the whole thing. Like, yeah, it just wouldn't have worked. He was on his own.
yeah, yeah, it wouldn't work. That makes sense even in today's world. Time was of the essence. He barely got there in time himself. um Harry also tells Pete about Eric Tompkins, and
And there's a line here I'm probably going to have to explain to the non-Canadians when when Harry responds, or Pete responds to that,
mhm.
um, and he says, "Oh, it says Harry. That should say Pete. It's Pete who has this line." That
Yeah, I
trailer
thought
fucking
so.
prick. Yeah, my mistake. Sorry, everybody. That should say Pete. Well, don't worry
Yeah.
about him. First thing tomorrow morning, he's going to have the RCMP crawling so far up his ass, he's going to be blowing red surge out of his nose. Red surge is the material they use to make RCMP dress jackets. Those red jackets that they wear, the dress uniforms,
Oh, okay.
it's red
Yeah.
surge. So that's what that comment is all about.
I was wondering what Red Surge was.
Well, now
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and it's funny, as I read this, I didn't even notice the typo that it says Harry instead of Pete. It just made so much sense that it was Pete saying it that my mind just, interchanged the names Harry and Pete, and I knew Pete must have been the one who said it.
Which is exactly why I didn't find it, because I think my mind was doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easy enough for us to figure out, but anyway, so yeah, um, that's that, and Harry, um, Harry is able to finally just have some time to decompress with Marla and shower, get all the oil off, and just relax. And like, and there was just a a little bit of a spicy scene, a little shower scene. So there's still a little more of that going on.
Oh,
Um,
and I have to tell you, that's one of my favorite lines in the book
yeah.
when he says, the last person who did this for me was my mother, and she says, I hope that was a very long time ago.
Right. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
very happy the day I came up with that.
Yeah. I would hope so too. Yeah. That's great. Um, yeah, and he points out that this is a great source of pain relief, their little tryst in the shower, and that's actually that's true. There's he said I remember reading somewhere about a study that had been done on the analgesic effects of the endorphins released during the average orgasm. Apparently, they could provide up to 6 hours of pain relief. Judging from by the way the throb in my head had died down as we got out of the shower, I suspected those researchers might be onto something. Yeah, I've read about that stuff too. I've read about that.
Yes,
Absolutely.
apparently that's true. Of course, I wouldn't know, but yeah.
Right. So let's see. What was this part I highlighted here? So yeah, then they go to they decide they have to go see Marla's dad, so that they can find out what he knows about all this. Um, because Marla's dad was at that Al Petrico party, and they're gonna make sure he gets his story straight before the RCMP come knocking at his door.
Exactly.
Um, so that makes sense. And um, and according to Julian's reports to Tompkins, it was Tompkins' idea to kill them all, and Julian was only too happy to oblige. Marla says she's like, wait till we find this bastard, and my dad better pray he's not involved, because if he is, the RCMP are going to be the least of his worries.
Hmm.
So it was Tompkins who actually wanted to kill them all. Julian was, actually a step below him, kind of just working for him.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they go down there. I like how Marla just like lights into Tompkins, because they walk in on her father with none other than Eric Tompkins at his house, and Marla just goes over and just starts kicking him, and Harry has to pull her off of him because he he nearly got them all blown to smithereens. So understandable. And you know they have a just when you think things are settling down, there's yet another confrontation, uh, another tense standoff, because like Tompkins pulls a gun on them,
Yeah.
and so there's a standoff there, to Marla's father's shock, um and like and then once again you had like have a little bit of a villain monologue from Tompkins this time, because Harry had said, "What are you going to do? Kill us all? You think that'll change anything?" And Tompkins says, "You think stopping me will? You can't do battle with the forces of history, son. The West will become a sovereign state. That much is inevitable. It's just as I taught you. It all comes down to geography. Thanks to a lucky spin of the geographical roulette wheel, we're sitting on the largest oil deposit on the planet. That will be our ticket to nationhood. We will form our own country, our own government, and for the first time since we settled this land, we'll have control over our own destiny." What happens to any of us in the process is irrelevant. So again, another little villain monologue here,
Yeah.
and just shows how much he's so committed to the cause that he doesn't even care ultimately what happens to him in the long run. He just wants to see the West form their own country, and if any of them die in the process or anything happens to them, then so be it. Um, so they have they wind up fighting over the gun. Um, Harry and Eric Tompkins are struggling with the thing, and the gun goes off. Shooting at the ceiling, and then let's see. Yeah, the whole scene where they're struggling with it was so well done. Like I just loved the description of it, um and when yeah, like when it says I had both of my hands on his gun hand and I was working at his fingers, his grip on the weapon beginning to loosen. Then my feet slipped on the shards of broken glass on the floor beneath us and went right out from under me. I tumbled backwards, my head smacking the floor right on the spot where Julian had clocked me with his 45. Stars exploded behind my eyelids and I felt an instant urge to vomit. So I shook my head a few times, opened my eyes, and looked up to see Tompkins standing over me, smiling, his gun pointed right at my head, a faint smile on his lips. That is just such a well written struggle, and of all places, the guy Harry hits himself on the head right where he got hit before, so it's like double concussion now. He's
Yeah.
already on. Oh man. Um and and then um yeah, I liked this. This is a fun trope that happens in this type of scene where yeah, Tompkins thinks he's won. He's got the gun pointed at Harry, and then that you hear a "Hey asshole," and Marla is pointing a gun at Tompkins and shoots him. So that's the end of that. That was a satisfying moment. Takes him out. And what a descriptive passage too. The way that it's described here. Tompkins flew backwards as if he'd been lassoed and yanked off the back of a galloping horse. He crashed against the wall behind the couch, a large, ragged, bloody hole in his chest. He slid down the wall, leaving a wide streak of blood and gore on it as he did so. He came to rest in a sitting position, his eyes wide open and glassy, staring blindly into mine. What a vivid passage right there.
It's it's actually reminiscent of something I had to do in a play once. It was the very first play I did at the Shaw Festival back in 1995. It's an American play called The Petrified Forest. And in our version of it, the director has a huge gunfight that happens at the end of the play. It's not actually in the play, but he staged it wordlessly. It's all about these gangsters who are trying to escape from the cops. They've broken their leader out from jail and have been racing across the American West with the cops in hot pursuit. And there's this sort of offstage gun battle that we hear, and all of the gangsters, me being one of them, get hauled on stage. They're all dead and just sort of propped on various parts of of the the set. And I had been shot in the chest, and it was a big through and through from a shotgun. So I had a sponge filled with blood stuck on my back, and they brought me in, stuck me against the refrigerator, and let me slide down the fridge. And I left this big smear of blood on the fridge as I ended up in a sitting position, staring vacantly at the audience. So I think that's where that image was probably inspired.
Nice. So that actually, I wasn't expecting that to be drawn from anything, any kind of real life inspiration. So yeah,
Well, to be honest, I haven't really given that a lot of thought until this moment, but I'm pretty sure that's what the inspiration of that was.
yeah, on an unconscious level,
Yeah.
that's where that came from. Faith. Oh, by the way, Faith said, "I'm loving these characters' names." Amy said the names really make the characters stand out. I agree. I do love the way you've named them.
Well, both Marcy and I have always had a great deal of fun naming our characters.
Yeah. It shows. And Faith said, I've already worked out all the details for the alternative organizations to rival the governments. Oh, okay. She said I was literally saying the same thing to my therapist this morning. I'm not sure what that that was 5 minutes ago, so I'm not sure what that was about, but anyway, so let's see. To wrap up here, okay, so that pretty much ends that scene, and um so let's
This
see.
last little scene here is actually just a nice little button to the whole adventure story back then in Alberta in 91. This is just tying a bow on it all.
Yeah. So yeah, the final scene um Pete, Istvan, and Harry, they meet out behind the Stampede offices, and let's see. So Istvan, Istvan, let's see. Oh, he so he's thrilled have been gifted this brand new van, courtesy of CSIS.
Of course, he
Uh,
doesn't know it's CSIS at this point, but
no, he doesn't know, but he's just happy to receive it. And so yeah, because they replace poor Beulah. She's finally done for, and so yeah, he can't they can't of course tell him what's actually going on, um and he wonders if Pete's secret police. um Istvan is another fun character whenever he pops up, with his broken English, and and you know and Pete actually says that's right, but CSIS aren't actually secret police. And let's see. Um, so essentially, they tell Istvan, if if he just keeps his mouth shut, and keep this whole incident to himself, and if anyone asks what happened to the old van, just say it was vandalized. And if anyone wants to know where the new van came from, tell them it was an anonymous donor. That's it. And then that's it. You get the van, and Istvan says, all right, then I know nothing. And just gives Harry a bear hug. He grabs Pete by the shoulders and kisses him noisily on both cheeks. He says, "I love this country." It cracked me up. Um, Such colorful characters here. Even like the small characters like Istvan. And then let's see. So Pete and Harry, um, they have another conversation, um and uh and so yeah, so this is where Pete says that the story about what happened, the explosion at the plant, got out before CSIS had time to lock things down. So the Jillian's manifestos were all over Bow Island, and now everybody already thinks the AEA was responsible for the bombings, which is something they wanted to avoid. But Pete says that they'll be setting the media straight soon. And as for Tompkins, Pete says that they had to kind of work hard to get the cops to go along with them, and they're giving the press the story that Tompkins was drunk, got into an altercation with Marla's father that turned violent. When she realized her dad's life was in danger, she did what she had to do and shot him. And Now there was a wrinkle when the RCMP realized that Marla owned one of the cars found at Julian's place after his barn burned down. But they convinced them not to let that out publicly, and she's staying with her parents for a few days. They're pretty shaken up, and then unfortunately, to Harry's dismay, CSIS is not going to be like blowing the whistle on Al Petrico right now, and the WSP being behind the bombing. Um, so that he's disappointed about that. Like he's not going to be, you know, well, right as they say that, though, unfortunately, they're interrupted by some of his theater buddies, and obviously have to stop talking. And they find that, oh, they have this new van, and they're confused by it, um, but they're all happy with it. They take Tyrone, the little T-Rex from Beulah, and get some crazy glue to put him in the new van. Um, and yeah, so that's that. Yeah. I wasn't surprised to read that Al Petrico and the WSP's plan wasn't gonna come out right now, as we would hope it would. Um, yeah, it would have felt a little too easy, I think, for those, the big bad Al Petrico Oil Company to get outed right away to the
And in
press.
situations like this in real life, that's not usually how it goes. It usually gets swept under the rug for a variety of reasons, So
Yeah, it felt true to life for me that they're not blowing the whistle on that, at least not right now. It's not coming out. So,
it's kind of what
definitely
Julian predicted, actually, in a sense,
it is. It is kind of what he predicted, actually.
Yeah.
Um, oh, and Faith had said I was talking about a line one of the characters were saying. My attempt at a joke. Oh, don't feel bad. It was just me being 5 minutes behind what you had said, so I didn't know what the reference was. So sorry about that, Faith. But that wraps up this extremely eventful section of the book. Definitely my favorite so far. A real page turner. Um, and I think that was a perfect place to start. To pick up and then to wrap up for this part, because you know now that plot line is tied up nicely with a bow, like you said, and I'm interested to see where it goes from here, because there's still quite a bit left. There's still, let's see, we're at, yeah, there's at least 100 pages left to this book, a little bit more than 100 pages.
Yep. And we're kind of we're out of the past tense now. Everything else is in the present tense from this point on.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, that's a big transition then for
Yeah.
the last quarter of the book.
And this was one of the tricky things for me, was trying to parse out the events in the past as far into the book as I possibly could. But once they've solved the the big to do at Bow Island, there's really nothing more to do there anymore. Um, oh, actually, no, sorry, I'm wrong. We do go back one more time. I forgot. We go back for one very important thing that hasn't happened yet. But yeah, I
Oh,
think that's the last one. There's another one coming up, but then that's it. Um,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see where it goes from here, because there must be some really substantial events that haven't happened yet, because for there to be still about a quarter of the book left to read.
Yeah, there's one more trip down memory lane, which I think ends, let me see. Where? Oh, I think I've gone past it. Sorry, bear with me here just a moment.
It's all right. Faith, I hope you don't mind too many spoilers as we've been diving so deep into the plot of the book, but if you would like a copy, I'm happy to email one to you. So just shoot me an email at JulieBDeepDives@gmail.com and I'll be glad to send you a PDF. Did you find the spot, Doug, that you were
Yes,
looking?
yes, I did actually. It's not very far along here at all. It starts. I'm just looking for the asterisks. It's only about 20 pages away from where we are right now. Yeah,
Oh,
it starts on page 326 and it goes to the late 330s, I think.
oh,
Um,
okay.
and
Coming
then
up.
we're out of the past.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it ends on 330, beginning, top of 339.
Okay. And so from there,
And
yeah.
then from that point on, basically the last, just less than 100 pages, it's all in the present tense.
And yeah, the book has a grand total of just over 429 pages, a little bit of a 430th page. Um
And to be
so
honest, I
yeah.
can't think of a place. There's not really a logical break from this point on.
Mhm.
So I think what we should do is just make these last 120 odd pages the last section that we look at, because it's kind of, it's a discrete chunk and there's no real logical break in it anywhere in the middle.
Okay. So yeah, we can
And it's
just do it
really,
all.
I mean, as much as what we just read tonight feels like the climax, what's left is the actual climax of the book.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a while to get there, but yeah, we're now, this next section that we're about to start is basically ramping up to the big climactic ending.
Oh, that's interesting, because it up to now it's been intriguing to speculate on what's going on with CSIS being so eager to publish this book. Why is that going on? And but it seems like the action was always going to be rooted in the past. So, yeah, that's intriguing.
Well, not
Um,
all of the action. Uh,
yeah, not all of
there's
it.
there's more of that to come. Don't you worry about that. Um,
Awesome.
but yeah, there was really no way, as I was saying earlier, once I finished the story of Bow Island, there was no way to continue the story in 1991 anymore. We're kind of stuck in the present day now, and but again, this last section has a real sense of momentum about it, I think, because of the fact that it is leading up to the climax. So I think we should probably just take this one last chunk as our next reading assignment, if you will.
Awesome. Okay, then that's what we'll do.
Okay.
So we'll do the last segment of the book. So about page 305 or 306, going up to page 430, and we'll cover that in the next live. I'm not sure when we're gonna do that. We haven't discussed it yet about next week's schedule. But I'm free when you are, Doug, so we can discuss and figure out when that's going to happen and announce it to everybody. And
Sure. Well, a week today would be fine. My schedule is pretty open next week. After the first couple of days of the week, I'm fine. So we could do next Wednesday or Thursday, whatever.
okay, yeah, that works for me too. So yeah, Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Wednesday should be fine.
Okay. Well, let's aim for that. And, if we've got to change it, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, yeah. If not Wednesday, then Thursday. Absolutely. And I'll double check and make sure, of which day I can do it, and yeah, that sounds like a plan. So, um, so that is the assignment. Samuel said, "Dougie Fresh, good night, all."
Good night, Samuel. And actually, I'm going to say good night to everybody too, because I really do have to hit the hay. I've got to get up early tomorrow. But thank
Yeah,
you all for coming. Thanks for listening. I hope you're enjoying listening to this as much as Julie and I are enjoying doing it. And hopefully, we'll see you all next week.
yes. Same. I'm so enjoying doing these, and Amy says good night. Rest well.
Good night,
Um,
Amy.
and yeah, good night, Doug. I hope you are able to manage to get enough sleep to manage all right tomorrow, and we have a great day. And
Okay.
thanks for being here as always.
Thanks for having me, and we'll talk soon. Take
All
care.
right. Good night.
Bye.
Okay, guys. That is going to be my cue to head out as well. Vibrant Numeral says thank you, good night. And Faith and Repentance says good night, Doug. I will absolutely read your story. Look forward to it. Have a great rest of the week. And I will pass those words along to Doug, Faith. And Oh, Julie, you're the best. Thank you. You're sweet. You are such a sweet, lovely person. Thank you. And your words of support, I know they mean a lot to Doug too. So thank you for being so interested and yeah, and I'm happy to send you a copy of the book. So just shoot me an email if you would like, and I will get that over to you right away, anytime. So it's JulieBDeepDives at gmail.com. To anyone out there listening who would like a copy of the book that Doug has been kind enough to provide to us for free and then hang out and talk to us about it. I mean, how cool is that? How often do you get to chat with an author about his work live in real time? And I'm thoroughly enjoying this book. And so yeah, so I appreciate Doug once again for doing this, and there's a sequel too, by the way. So so if you like this, there's more where this came from, and maybe if we're really nice to Doug, we could we could persuade him to offer up the sequel book if he's willing. And the sequel also, it picks up Harry's story and takes it further. So he's even considering writing a third book. He has ideas for a third book, which was what was originally planned. He originally planned on doing more than just two books in this series. So yeah. Um, so I think it's just awesome that he's sharing it with us, and I'm having a great time reading it. It's just it's fun, especially knowing that it's so much it's so inspired by Doug's actual life. No, he's not a spy or anything like that, but he injects a lot of his own personality into the protagonist, Harry, and you know, he puts a lot of little stories. He weaves a lot of his own stories from his life as a traveling actor in theater productions in the past. Weaves those stories into this book, and I think that's awesome, and it makes it a lot more fun knowing that, even more than it already would be. So yeah, so it's fun. So Faith says, "Thank you. What a gift. You're welcome, Faith. I hope he gets the success he deserves. He really puts his heart into everything he does." Yeah, he really does. He really does. And I hope the same. I would love to see this book get published. He's not actively trying to get it published anymore. He didn't want to hound publishers all the time trying to get that done, but I think it deserves to be published. And And he's doing great in terms of his TV career at the moment, and his plays are doing an amazing job as always. This book is just it's one of the few things he's written that hasn't been published. So in terms of his plays, they've all been published except for his most recent one, which has to get a production first, and he's still working on that, and that's new, so that's a long process. Samuel said, "You don't know that for sure." Yeah, that's true. I mean, who knows? Maybe he really is a spy for CSIS. Wouldn't that be the ultimate twist to this story? Faith said he's quite a character himself, highly enjoyable to be around. Right? Absolutely, he is. That's why we all keep coming back for more, and we enjoy talking with him so much. Yeah, he is such an interesting person. She says, Faith says, perhaps as his success rises elsewhere, eventually eyes will fall on his writings. I hope so. Yeah. I think that, uh, he can parlay some of his new success in TV into getting more productions of his plays. And who knows, maybe something could come of getting this book published in time. I would love to see that happen. But he's more focused on his plays. He's happy and content just knowing that he wrote this book, and both of his books, and he doesn't feel the need to try to get them published. He's not actively trying. He's just satisfied that he did it, and that's the end of that. And he's focused on doing more work on plays and getting his plays published, and his latest play published, and getting more productions of his existing plays. That's where his focus lies. But he's definitely, I think he could parlay his TV success into getting more attention on his plays, and more productions, and getting his latest play, Sucker, a production, and then publication. And if anyone would like to check out Doug's work, you can check out the links in the description of this video. You'll find a link to his play Deadline, where you can order a PDF copy, or you can order a physical copy, which I did. And then there's a link to Concord Theatricals, where I believe his first 4 plays are there, or 5. I think his first 5 plays are there. So you can order his plays on those sites. You can check out his website for more information about him, and you can also order a cameo from him as well. Highly recommend those. And anyway, so that being said, I am going to go exercise some self-care, and I will be back with you guys Thursday night for Welcome to Derry episode 2 Deep Dive Live. I had to postpone it for self-care reasons, for pain. Oh, thanks, Amy. I've got to fix the link for the cameo. Thank you for pointing that out, Amy. So yeah, for those listening on the replay, you'll be able to find all Doug's links in the description. That one I've got to fix, which I will do. And so we'll be covering Welcome to Derry tonight. Well, technically it's tonight already. Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. It might change a little bit. It could wind up being 10:30 Eastern time. And we're going to break down the second episode of Welcome to Derry, the Thing in the Dark, I believe it's called. So looking forward to that. And Friday night, we'll have FROMACADEMY with Doc at 12:30 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be finishing up the theme of Martin, and also diving into the Music Box Monster on From. And that being said, I hope you guys have a good day or a good night. Thank you so much to those of you who have been here, and to those listening on the replay. I appreciate you too, of course, as always. And I'll see you next time.
Yeah. That's a theory creaking open, baby. Yo, welcome to the screen where the plot gets bent. Julie B deep dives, not just for content. She don't react, she dissects those threads from the lens, catching clues y'all missed when the credits end. What you know about freeze framing frames and while you blinking, she building an evidence drum. Got a notebook thicker than the lore itself, and a chat full of nerds with a mental health shelf. Yeah, she sees the glitch, peep the double cross. You just watching TV, she talk to the boss. Every theory and thesis, no throwaway guess. While y'all on season 1, she in season X. Said rewind it, slow it, zoom in, enhance. Julie B caught the symbol in the window glance. While you tweeting what just happened like a clown, she already made a flow chart, color-coded breakdown.
They don't die like us, they don't vibe like us. They binge and they bounce, we revive that trust. They skip intros, we every frame. You watch shows, we decode the game. They don't die like us, nah, they don't die like us.
She cracked Severance before y'all knew it was deep. Predicted the Last of Us deaths in her sleep. When the camera pans, she ain't blinking once. Catch a ghost in the glass, call it theory punch. Watch parties lit like apocalypse nights. Call-ins while they bringing alien rights.
Hey Julie, I think the trees are spies. Well, I have a spreadsheet that confirms that, guys.
Zoom in, boom in, she moving through clues. Spinning Discord in the courtrooms, Lord of views. Got mods with receipts. Time stands with heat. Every rewatch turns into a Reddit elite. You stuck on the surface, we beneath with maps. Cross-referencing lore with the rector's caps. If your fave show got secrets, don't be dumb. Julie got the chalkboard out from's where it's from.
They don't dive like us, they don't vibe like us. They skim the edge, we inside that crust. They zone out, we zone in the pain. You say plot twist, we say nope, chain. They don't dive like us, nah, they don't dive like us.
What's that?
That ain't a blooper, that's a plot thread. You thought it was a shadow? She thought it was a coded message from season 3. And she's probably right. Step this way if your mind's unbent. Step that way if your theories pay rent. Say Julie B, deep dive queen. Now zoom, scroll, theorize, pull. Ain't no rabbit hole safe once she got the cloud.